254, the Power Rankings episode, mid-season edition here at TCP, the podcast where Yiska discovers that since Halo is retired from Overwatch reporting, that he will now become the new lead leaker. So what do you got for us? What kind of leaks we got on board?
He's got leaks. He's doing it live.
Live on the show. Go on.
I'm not. And I'm cringing.
You know what's even more cringe? Children's playgrounds. That's cringe. I hate those toys. Those toys all suck. Those little spinny things, they fucking break too many kids' arms. Jungle gyms, that's a death trap. Children's playgrounds are the worst. Fidget spinners.
Wait, where did how did we get here? I'm nauseous.
I'll explain after the show. I'll say that. How about that?
Did you go out with with little people in your life to playgrounds? They'd sucked, or
no? Weirdly enough, my niece isn't of the age yet to venture onto a playground, even though my sister has like tried to bring her to a park and she's just like not having it. But you know, within the next like 6 months, I'd say, yeah, this kid's probably tumbling down a slide and either is going to like get up like really jazzed and like, let's do that again. Let's like pump adrenaline, or like really sad and like never wants to approach it. So either we're going to scar them, or, you know, she's going to love the slide.
Yeah. My nephew actually had his first swing like this week. Yeah. They have, like, I think in Germany, we generally have pretty good playgrounds, at least in this city, I would say.
I bet like all of Europe has like great parks. I don't know if that's like just a utopian, like just an American being like, man, you got like free healthcare and parks. Like that's just Europe. Oh, and then castles. You know, there's just castles everywhere.
Yeah, parks and recreation.
Like yeah.
But my favorite interaction on Twitter this week was Yiska says, "Should I just leak stuff?" And Arnold's like, yeah.
No, that actually my thing was more, should I leak in a different way as to create more hype?
Yeah, and then he goes, just fucking say shit, bro.
Arnold, just make some shit up. Just make some shit up.
Just say anything.
Maybe I cheated on my wife. Just say something to make it fun. Like, what the fuck, bro? What do you take me for?
Kind of alpha though. I respect that from Arnold. It's just like, just do it. Just.
No. We're not doing
there's no ethics left in journalism anyway. Just do whatever you want.
Good.
No.
I mean,
no. They gotta bury me with that. No.
They really lied to me in journalism school. I didn't really take journalism. I learned a little bit of journalism in school. Okay. And they you know, the things they teach you is, you know, all the integrity and like what the role of journalism meant to be.
Yeah.
And then you get to the real world and that's all complete horseshit. Yeah. I'm like, wow, people really out here just to get clickbait and make money. I understand now. That's the real world. You know, like school is designed to lie to you kids. That's what I learned.
I'm currently playing through Spider-Man, and you sometimes get these radio thingies in your head, right? And you just what's this guy called? JJ.
I'm not gonna help you. I'm just gonna let you drown.
JJ Abrams.
JJ Cool Love.
The journalist that hates Spider-Man, right? You know,
I know who you're talking about. I don't know his name.
Right.
A.K. Simmons.
But, like, I listen to this and go like, that's ridiculous. What an over-the-top asshole. He won 2 Pulitzers? Ha! That would never happen. No, this is all of journalism now, and it's actually quite plausible that this guy could be huge. Like, I'm like, the groups of journalists should be part of the priest class and only tell the truth. Meanwhile, nope.
They're all warlocks.
Make some shit up.
They're all charisma based.
Team Z, baby.
J.K. Simmons is a legendary, fellas, and so will be this episode. We are going to finally head in. The banter is over. It's all serious business from now because I'm pretty sure our rankings are going to be wildly different. We're going to have some sort of. I think we're still going to have a consolidated ranking for TCP overall, like what our average is, but like. I have no idea. I don't even know what that's going to look like. You know, I'd be interested to know what the one team that we have with the largest disparity between like high and low based on where we are.
I have a couple guesses, but we'll find out.
We'll find out. 254, brought to you by AVRL Vista Bay, Battle Crab, Refine Being, Bronze Bot, Boo, Chare, Prophet Picasso, Chris R34444, Cash 67, Lol Shin, Pork Chop Sammy, Rexane, Volamel, Smooth Nuts, and Your Misery. The YouTube members Ice Ham Jello, William Jesse, Vishman, Fire Element 6, AK, and Chris R. And also, of course, our partners Juked, who have been amazing.
Yes.
And go check them out.
You definitely should. Funnily enough, they just rolled out one of their newest features, breaking hot off the press, hit the alarm bells, hit the crazy trap beats. Live chat is on Juked now. I believe that is public. I believe that is out there for you, the consumers, to consume. I do believe that will be coming to some select Overwatch League games in the near future. But yes, as AVRL said, we want to thank our special sponsor for sponsoring this sponsored episode. Not sponsored, but you know the case. Juked, yes, they have partnered with us for this last couple of weeks of our partnership, and they're phenomenal. It's a social app that's been made to specifically target the needs of esports fans. So you want to watch contenders? Boom, you got the schedule for contenders. Oh, yeah, you want to check out Shroud and see how he's doing? If he's dropping 3v1 clutches on the reg, boom, they got the schedule for that too. No toxicity. They've got an incredible platform to have long form discussions. If you like Yiska's tweet threads, tell him to get on Juked. He can discuss stuff with you. He can tell you why you're wrong and why power rankings should just be a direct comparison to this mid-season standings, and anything else is just completely bunk and you're fallible and liable. There may be lawsuits. I'm not a lawyer, but maybe there could be. I'm just saying. On top of that, we did reach out to the community this week and wanted to ask you guys for the Juked MVP award of the week. Who's our MVP? We don't know. We're about to see. On who in the midseason standings could be moving up in the rankings. We had a pretty wide net. We had some Atlanta fans. We had some Spark. We had some people in there talking about how maybe London could be up there. Juke GG user Brendo says that Reign's got to move up. They consistently look good in NA. Their losses to mid-table teams are more understandable after seeing those mid-table teams perform decently in the global tournament. And then we have people like JS Santrelli, hopefully I'm saying that right. Two teams that they think should be bumped up are Philly and Spark, and two teams kind of falling down a spot, maybe Dallas and Shanghai. So if you want to follow us, maybe have an opportunity to get featured on the show as well, head on over to juke.gg, I believe, /tactical crouch. Follow that, drop some comments, interact with our posts there. And if you are so inclined, go ahead and support Juked in their We Funder campaign. They're looking to raise over $400,000. And if you want to get in early with some, investments that are a little bit more grassroots, you can do that at the link below. That's wefunder.com/Juke. And we thank them for sponsoring this episode. Bang.
Thank you. Alrighty. Shall we? It's time.
Let's go.
Let's do this. 20 teams, 21 different rankings. Just gonna add an extra one. I don't know. Just felt like adding another one. Where do we start? Number 20. Okay, here's some rules, some ground rules, so that everyone understands what the basis for what the foundation is. Power rankings only from the start of the season till the Midseason Madness tournament, including the Midseason Madness tournament, obviously. So not including any roster moves that haven't been actually played yet. So, for example, Guangzhou, NYXL with the Ho 1 and the Ultra Prime guys. I mean, we haven't seen them play on the teams yet, so can't really count them because this is not a prediction. Power rankings are not predictions, guys. Power rankings are power rankings. They're a snapshot of the current power of the respective teams as of right now, and not a prediction of how well they will do in the Summer Showdown. So that's generally what the rules are for this power ranking. And honestly, for probably all power rankings, if you want to do power rankings properly, I think that this is what it's meant to be. Not a prediction. So we all good with that? Everyone submitted their power rankings already. We have 3 different ones here, and at the end we'll try and maybe we'll have an aggregated one. We'll see. No questions, no worries.
Nope.
Shall we get started? Number
Let's
20.
do it.
Oh, by the way, the teams that are in the left side column, you're wondering, like, hang on, is this already a power ranking? We already have a 1 to 20 here. These are just the regular season
Standings
plus league points from the actual Overwatch League right now. So this is not a power ranking. What you see on the current columns with the Gladiators, Shock, Seoul, Dallas, Spark, Shanghai, etc. That's not the power ranking. That's just where the teams are currently on the standings based on the results. So, yeah, with that aside, hopefully no more confusion. Let's reveal number 20. Or rather, let's reveal Vancouver Titans. And are they in number 20? They are. Everyone's got them in number 20.
Shocking.
That's how this is going to work. So we reveal them based on the teams of where they are in the standings. So obviously in the standings, Vancouver Titans are 0-12, negative 29 map diff. No league points, sadly. And then we reveal where we all had Vancouver Titans. So we all had Vancouver Titans in number 20.
Worst team in the league by far, both regions.
20.
Barely wins maps. Sorry to pay.
Yeah, I mean, that first stage was just shambolic, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a bit of a throw, bit of a toss.
DP inherited
a lot of problems.
Issues.
Yes, that's one way to put it. That's for sure. So got to put
like
them
like generational debt. You've inherited your father's problems.
Yeah, and I suppose, like, I mean, it's looking up. It's got better. It's not got better to the point where I'm confident they can actually do the turnarounds that they so dearly want to do. But yeah, I don't know. Like, and as we will soon find out, this is also a team that should be very higher based on the budget that it has.
Spoilers.
I don't know if that's a spoiler. I feel like we bring that up every other week.
Right.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe I just bring it up every other week. But this time it was Yiska, so not me. But yeah, for me, it's like 0-12. I don't think I can comfortably put them above any other team, given that they are the only winless team with the worst map record. Like, I think factually they have to be at the bottom. I think it would be a travesty to put anybody else at 20th. When everyone else has technically won a game.
Just won games. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't feel right. So, like, by default, you'd have to put them at 20. They're just, that's all you can do.
Yeah.
I know this is, and also this is not a prediction, right? So I think Yiska's right. In future, in the next stage in Summer Showdown, when you look at their strength of schedule, looking pretty winnable. I expect them to start taking some games, but as of right now, based on the Midseason Madness qualifiers and the Midseason Madness tournament, which they didn't play in, 20 is the correct answer. I think we're all unanimous there. We'll see how long we stay unanimous. I'm having a funny feeling that the bottom 8 should be pretty similar, but everything above that, could be pretty spicy. So, where have we got Guangzhou Charge? Let's take a look. They are currently 19th in standings. And okay, guys, I'm learning things as we go. So we're revealing that. So we're not revealing the Guangzhou Charge. We're just revealing 19th. Yiska and I have Paris in 19. Joe, you have Guangzhou in 19.
Yes. I think across the board, Paris, especially in the midseason regular or the qualifying matches for the midseason madness, I thought that Paris was a little bit more competitive in what I believe to be the more competitive region as a whole. Well, I guess that's not necessarily true. I guess the tougher, is that fair to say?
No, it's not.
I guess that's not fair either, but it's more, I think that they had closer games. I think that's what I'll say. I think they battled some teams close. They actually won a few games. Charge, I think, especially this last stage, had some map wins, but from my memory, I didn't think they looked all that competitive. Now, in the future, I do expect them to perform well, but because this is a power ranking of where we stand currently, I would say that they are the second worst team in the Overwatch League.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at the past games that Charge play and the past games that Paris play, Paris kind of had that, that win versus New York, which elevated them above Vancouver from that. Aside from that, I'm trying to hang on. Let me just actually grab the actual info so I'm not capping. You have to know. They got a couple maps versus Toronto. Got blasted by Boston, London, Atlanta. To be fair, Atlanta's
Good teams, yeah.
reasonably good team. London is probably quite a bit better than them at the stage. I feel like Guangzhou have a little bit more explosivity from a couple of members on that squad. I still look at Choi Seung-hwan as like a real
Sure, yeah.
nut job, generally speaking. I also feel like Develop started to get really good towards the end. I mean, I know he got cut, but he started to like he really started to come into his own.
Yeah.
And above that, Faraway 1987 has been solid the entire year. Given their recent matches as well, it's like they were more consistently taking maps and being slightly competitive compared to Paris, so I bumped them up.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I also think like if you look at APAC, there's just no bad teams to farm up on.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
Like if you're the Charged, you now don't have a free win. Why?
Mhm.
Or like a team that's, with you down there. Right? While
Yep.
that isn't true for the NA teams. Like Paris, the reason they have their win is because I think that it was against the Titans, right? If I recall correctly.
New York.
New York? Oh, right.
Paris beat New York.
Oh, they haven't played against each other, then, presumably, right?
They haven't played Titans
Yet.
at all. They actually haven't played Titans at all.
Yeah.
No, not
So
even a single time.
We're getting double toilet bowl for the rest of the season. I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I think overall, I'm pretty confident that if the Charge was to play Paris, they would probably win that match.
Interesting.
Yeah. The only teams that Paris have had a pretty unlucky schedule because the only teams that they've been winnable for them, based on their position, is like Washington, who they lost 1-3, New York, who they beat 3-2, Boston, who they lost 0-3. So I don't know. In some ways, you can maybe put New York below them to be really fair, but in other cases, like they have lost to everyone else. New York's a bit of an interesting one either, but we'll figure them out. Well, let's see. Let's find out where on earth New York is. Maybe they will show up now. Let's reveal number 18. A funny feeling some Guangzhou's might start showing up now.
Yeah.
I have New York at see. That's what I'm talking about.
That's
I have
fair,
New York
yeah.
at 18. Joe, you got Paris at 18. Yiska, you have Guangzhou at 18. I'll start first. Yeah, I think in New York have, again, I'm not including Ho1. I'm not including any
Yeah.
other changes. I'm not even including whatever potential coaching changes they might have. I'm not looking at any of that. I'm just looking at what they've done recently, this entire stage. And they've been pretty, they lost to Paris. The fact that I have I'm actually forgetting where do I put Paris? The fact that I put them above Paris sounds fucked up. Given my argument that I just made, the fact that I put them above Paris doesn't seem right. However, they did go close to Dallas. They did go close to Houston. And I think that's got to be worth something.
Yep.
Whereas Paris beat them, but like didn't really achieve
Really
too much
do anything else. Yeah.
New York took a map off of Boston. That's something Paris didn't do. I feel like over the course of both of their teams' losses, New York's losses have been closer against better competition.
Would agree.
Okay, apparently Eric messed up my rankings. So,
Oh, did that happen?
but it's still correct. My 18th is still New York. So we're chill. All right, you guys got to defend your picks now.
I mean, yeah. Paris coming in. Not too much else to say. Like, not a great team. I think.
But
to
why?
your credit, AVRL. What?
Why Paris above Charge?
I think recently. Okay, so to be fair, I did weigh mid-season performance a little bit more than Kickoff Clash. I think that the mid-season. That's not fair to say either, because I think in Kickoff Clash we saw a little bit more metas. I think I waive a little bit of what Paris like performed, like their like overall form in Kickoff Clash because of like the roster turmoil they had. I think this roster moving forward should be what they play. So I'm judging like their recency a little bit more. But just as a whole, I had a little bit of recency bias in this. Plus, it's like the only thing that's like in my brain at the moment. And I think like Paris overall had more close games than the Charge did, and still looked more in form within this meta.
Okay.
It's like splitting hairs, like point by point, but like, yeah, I would say that if Paris and Charge played, I would guess that Paris probably wins.
But you think Dove Paris is stronger than Glister Paris?
On paper, no, but in terms of like what they've shown me thus far, I'm willing to like test it out to feel it out. I don't know that I have like a great read on them as it stands right now.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I think on paper, like Paris should have been performing better with Glister, and yet they weren't. I don't know why that is. I have some like not even compositional questions, but like how they were engaging in like kickoff. I wasn't like thrilled by. I thought like they were together, but I mean, maybe, I don't know. Like, it's
sad boy.
It's splitting hairs. It's one position. I give Paris a little bit more credence to, you know, some success in a head-to-head, so they get to be less poo-poo than the Charge. Slightly less.
Man, that's doing my boy Choice one dirty. I'm not here for that.
Yeah. At least Yiska's got Choice one above Vancouver and Paris. At least.
Sure.
Yes. By himself. Any day.
Yep.
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 I think the real discussion is Charge better than New York as well? That's in my mind, that's
Which is
the
what
series.
I'm about to have to defend.
Yeah.
I'm about to have to defend that one, so we'll get there.
Yeah.
Shall we get to 17?
17.
See where I've got the Charge. I've Charge at 10th place, by the way, because fuck everyone. I got Charge. In fact, you know what? Charge is my number one team. Fuck all y'all.
I'm here for it. Charge top 4
Whoa,
Apex. Let's
Joe's a Valiant hater. Screw you, Joe. You actually put New York above Valiant.
I did.
Okay,
I did.
I'm done. I'm out of here. This is
what?
This is ridiculous.
Okay, this is
ridiculous.
I thought New York overall in NA by the end of it probably could have taken like maps off of most teams. I thought they were. If
Dude,
like, we're gonna talk about
Valiant
explosive,
could be like 5-5 right now. What are you saying? Which they
I think
couldn't because they
Valiant
played
in
2
this-
games. They could be 6-6.
If you put Valiant in NA, they just beat Toronto right. They beat Toronto, Washington, Boston easy right now.
Yes.
I think they beat
Just clean them up.
Boston and Justice. I don't know about Toronto. That one I genuinely don't know.
You what happened to you? The old Joe used to slam Toronto.
I
now
know.
you're
I know. They gave me a little
happened
bit
to
of copium with like their tournament performance at the Midseason Madness. I was like, all right, this ain't bad.
They got fucking blown.
I mean,
What
Shanghai
the-
isn't bad. Shanghai's not like a terrible team, and they like went toe to toe with them. And I think that like that deserves to be like weighted. Like, all right, you deserve to be mid pack. Like, you're not just like a throwaway buy team. And I don't know that Valiant with 2 stages. Yes, they have.
You know what else? Valiant also went toe to toe with Shanghai in kickoff clash when Shanghai were a better team than they were in the midseason.
That's true. That's true. I think there is a lot to say about like Shanghai being like slightly better, like domestically as they get farther in. I don't know if we can say the same about Valiant. I don't see this team like persisting. Yes, like this is a judgment of like where they stand currently, and even then I still don't like have a great feeling about them. I think that like they're like hitting most of what is all there in terms of like meta compositions, but I don't see this like tank line persisting. I don't see this like
By the way,
this consistent performance that like puts them higher. I don't know. And it's a spot, guys.
Valiant reverse sweeps Philly. Philly came fourth. Anyway, let's continue. Yeah, it's a valid argument.
Sure.
I mean, that's haphazard. To be honest, like
Basically,
it's true.
I'm not like, huh?
Joe is high on some shit. Like it's indefensible.
He is really high right now. He's high on Molly, or actually, for the first time in his life, he's low on Molly. Molly
Yes.
would not like to have a word with you.
Yeah.
Actually, to be honest.
I think the 3 teams that you pair Valiant with, I do not think that they beat them even handedly. I don't even know if they beat them. Period.
Their roster, unironically, Valiant's roster quality is higher. Okay, actually, that's a lie because Washington's roster quality should be higher, but you have to give like -3 points to everybody on that team because I don't know.
Sure.
Together as a whole,
yeah.
they're worse. It's like worse than the sum of their parts. Negative buff, debuff for the Washington Justice. So it's like, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's like the
we will
anti-Exodia.
talk about we will get to Washington. We're gonna get to them. We're gonna get to all these other teams, including Toronto and all that. It's NYXL Guangzhou. I think like what Yiska, I have Guangzhou above NYXL. You have them below, and it's 17-18 no matter which way you cut it. So I guess we're kind of like aligned, but kind of flip the coin here. I don't know. I have some weird Guangzhou copium going for me. I'm a bit of a Choi Se-Hwan and Faraway believer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I look at these two guys, I'm like, holy shit. Choi Se-Hwan competes with Yaki. Faraway is just better than both the sports on NYXL. That's what it is.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Flora's debatable versus Develop. I felt like Develop started to get again much better towards the end of his time in Guangzhou, and I would probably take him over Flora. I don't know. Kellen's in a bit of a mess right now. Krong's not ridiculously good right now either, but
yeah,
whatever. Unique is not great, but Gangnam Jin Lucio is also not very great. So, what you will with that?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
That's my argument.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I think you can definitely like this is one where like I think this is the most interesting discussion always, like the inter-regional strength, because like yes, we had some touching points in the mid-season due to the mid-season tournament. You don't know how the lower rankings would match up, right? Like I mean, how the distribution works there, and I think I don't think like Charge is near Vancouver level, and to be fair, like I think my reasoning is that it just shouldn't be this bad. It shouldn't be a 111 team.
You're like they should be better.
So, but in my brain is when I made the sentence. So the reason why I think New York's better is like really a voice in me screaming, "You were so high on Kellen, first pick in draft. Justify it. Justify it." But,
you're me from preseason. Preseason rankings for me up in New York so high, and you put them low. We swapped. What happened? We swapped. But I'll be straight. Like I don't. This is not like a hard like Guangzhou's definitely better situation for me. This is a coin flip. In fact, I looking at New York's results closer, I might even be aligned with you. I might even swap them, to be honest with you. Like, but it's a total coin flip. I'm not married to either of these. I'm not married to the Guangzhou 17 or the New York 18. Those are pretty interchangeable for me.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty close teams. Maybe New York deserves to be higher, but I just put Guangzhou 17th.
Yeah.
It is what it is. 16. Show me.
Survey says, okay.
Finally, New York shows up for Joe. Damn.
Yeah, that's kind of my
the biggest New York believer. You're the biggest New York believer here.
Yeah, off of like their midseason like qualifier performances, I thought that they battled a lot of like halfway decent teams close, where a lot of these other teams like did exactly what I expected them to do. You have New York taking maps off Justice. Yes, I mean battling Paris close isn't like a semblance or a pillar of faith, but taking Dallas close, taking Houston close, taking maps off of Boston, taking maps off of Glads, in the kickoff clash. Like this is a team, I don't know if they're on the mend, but like with what we've seen thus far, I think they've shown a better performance. And I genuinely believe like if we were to continue like those qualifying matches out a little bit more, I do think New York like does maybe surprise some teams. I think they like probably play a lot of teams close. I think that mechanical like individual skill meta kind of favored them in some like odd ways, allows Yaki to like get away with some extra stuff, like allows them to be like very high tempo. And yeah, I thought that they weren't terrible.
Yeah.
Not woeful.
I think I generally look at New York. I'm like, yeah, they did play some teams close, but then they also lost to Paris.
True.
So
Can't put them too high. Can't juice them, but
gotta go down a little bit for that. And also, they're a 1-11 team. I can't.
Yeah.
There's no world I'm putting a 1-11 team above a 3-9 team. Was my position.
Yeah.
Sure.
So actually, Yiska's the biggest Valiant believer. I might have to take a bit of a backseat here. I think I might have been trolling because I defended Valiant, and I'm like, bro, they could just beat Toronto, Washington, Boston. Then I put them below all three of those. I don't know what I'm doing here, guys. I actually have no idea. I apparently put them below all three of those teams.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Valiant are a very explosive team. They have the capability to be better than Toronto, but they also have the capability to I'll say it, maybe even lose to New York in the series.
Yeah.
They're a very mixed bag team where like their peaks are not bad. Their peaks are like probably
genuinely good,
upper mid in the overall rankings, upper mid of all teams in the Overwatch League. Like fuck's sake, they beat Philly. They're high because they can beat Philly, who just came fourth in the midseason madness.
Yes,
but their lows is they can lose to Guangzhou. But that was in the opening week. That was in the opening week.
That's true. I don't think they're doing that anymore.
To be fair, Philly came fourth, and they had their peaks, and while they had their lows when they were beaten by Valiant. Right? Like it's two slingshot teams meeting each other at the opposite extremes.
Except one of them has MN3 and Zest and all these good players.
I mean, there's Dia.
There is Dia, and then who else?
Marvel's an absolute god. Excuse me. Excuse me.
He has been good. Like no discredit to him, no shade, but yeah, I don't know.
I mean, who knows if he's currently even counts as a Valiant player?
Sure,
with their rolling
like, is he even getting paid? Like, is he paying?
You got him for another 30 days.
Right. Well,
he's on his second. He's on 60 days now.
You knew you weren't going to play for 30 days, right? Well, why pay him? Yo, that would be so vile, by the way. If you go out.
He's not on 60 days concurrently. He's on 30 days, bit of a break, and then another 30 days.
Yes. No. I mean, I don't think that's what's going on, but it would be pretty vile if they did that.
So you guys, what team just recently had a? Oh yeah, you guys don't know this, but when Houston sold Pelican and Piggy and stuff, Valiant's picking them up.
True. Yeah.
I know. We said no predictions, but Valiant's about to, No Hill smacking his lips. He's about to snap up half of Houston.
Hill's coming in with the bag. He went into his couch cushions. He found, broke up in the piggy bank. Maybe rinsed Dia's pockets. Said run him, kid. Yeah.
It's possible. Give me the Boston shout out here. What's going on?
I mean, I feel like
you're the lowest of the Boston. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, let's not like break bones. Like Boston's not too far up. I would guess for the rest of us.
Yeah, I feel like that once again, it's the decision. Like, how do you see the relative power rankings between like Valiant, who had good performances, could like take very good teams to map 5s and whatnot, while Boston just like feeds on the bottom. Do they have any good wins? Let me. Okay,
I think
to be fair, they played. They
beat Washington. They beat Vancouver. Yeah. These are all very good teams.
Going to Game 5 against Atlanta, it's not anything to be mad at.
Yeah, no, going map 5 against Atlanta, Mayhem, and Outlaws. I think it's totally fair to have Boston higher, but I don't know. A
big on Seeker.
You got a bit of beef with Boroy right now, so you got to shove him down. I understand.
I don't think Boroy is particularly happy with their performances so far, right?
No, because you can see like a good team and like a shitty team body. It's like the skinny fat kid that's like has good like bone structure and great genetics, and you're just like, bro, like, can you just get your shit together and get fucking yoked already, please? Because like you see them genuinely be all right, and then next week they're just like, "Whoops, sorry guys, I forgot my spaghetti. It was on the stove, and it is what it is."
Did you just also get the impression, Avril, that Joe just like rehearsed his speech that he gives himself every morning in the mirror?
You can be jacked. I am positive.
My favorite thing about doing these rankings is I locked in my rankings like nearly a week ago now, and I've mostly forgotten where I put these teams. which is why I'm like, oh shit, I have Valiant at 16. Totally forgot about that.
Oh,
So I actually don't know who I have upcoming.
You're experiencing a really fun writer thing where you like write a paragraph or you like get into the zone and you kind of splurge a little bit and then you come back to it and you're like, oh fuck, I forgot writing this.
Right now, I have to defend past Avril's choices, and I'm trying to remember where past Avril was in terms of where he put these themes and why he put these themes in. I'm like, why would past me have done this? And I have to try and work backwards from there. I'm currently living that Memento movie right now. I'm in the middle of living that movie. I'm trying to go back because I figure out what the fuck I did. So 15. I genuinely don't know who I have at 15. Let's show it.
Let's go.
Oh, interesting.
Let's go. Let's go, Avril. Let's go. I'm so tired of this team.
For what it's worth, I think Yiska's kind of based with the Valiant at 15 above Justice. That's actually kind of based.
I can't do that. I just on paper alone, I can't do that. I'm frustrated with the Justice. Like I do think they should be better, but like I can't do that.
I'm gonna tell you something. Past Avril was a pussy for not putting Valiant above Washington. Fucking pussy. That motherfucker should have put Valiant above.
Wait.
I would put it.
No, you did, right? Wait.
Right now, I would put Valiant above Washington.
No, wait, Valiant? Okay. Right. No, you did. That's what it means.
I didn't. I have Washington above Valiant.
Yes. Washington at 15, Valiant at 16. You illiterate fuck.
Yeah, no, I'm stupid.
I'm saying I should the other way.
I'm stupid, yeah.
That's all right. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still on the Washington roster quality should be better.
Talk about a skinny fat kid like this. Yeah, this team should be good. This team should be like good. Like Vigilante's in the mix. They have Mag. They have Decay. Like they're integrating Assassin and somehow Happy looks great. Like this team is a good team that just for whatever reason has like some crazy bad mentals. I genuinely believe that. That's not like that's wild speculation on my behalf. I don't know if that's the case, but like this is not a player problem. And I think I've watched this game enough for the last like 5 or 6 years that like most of the time, if you have good players, like factually good players who have played well on other teams, and I think we can say that about most of these players, and you put them together and they just somehow can't break bottom 5, like, yeah, no, that's rough. That's not good.
Giving too much credit to the players.
Overwatch 2, man. I don't know.
This guy thinks there's not a player problem. The problem is everyone is still having expectations of these players based on where they were last year, or based on like, pretty much based on where they were last year. It's like, oh yeah, Decay was really good. I don't know. People maybe people just need to consider that maybe Decay's not that good anymore. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like how? Like it didn't take. Let me put it this way. It didn't take that long for people to be like, "Oh, Arn's washed." Like 1 year, like it comes like 1 year. Oh, he's fucking washed. Why are people still gassing Decay, even though it's been like 2 years since he's shown a good performance? And people 6 months after Arn's left for Valorant came back said he was fucking bad, and yet people still like on the scopium of Decay. I don't understand that. There's some double standard shit going on.
I think it's because we do see him have like these flashes, these maps of like, okay, like Decay is there. He's like still playing well. It's just this team just like can't get their fucking heads on straight.
At some point, people need to stop the copium and accept the fact that Decay is not as good as he used to be.
I think where I believe you and I agree is that I think we've accepted the fact that this team is just not going to be very good. But I think individually, and I think we've said as much, like if we were to take Kellen and Mag and swap, I genuinely would wonder if both teams actually improve.
Probably.
Right? Like, I think the individual pieces on this team can work outside of this team, but for whatever reason, this cohesion just doesn't work.
There's one player right now that to me carries this franchise, and that's Happy. If Happy wasn't on this team, Washington plummets for me.
Yep.
You know, this guy is he's one holding the rest of the team up for me. Because I've lost faith in Decay. And I don't know, people give Decay so much rope. This guy gets the most rope of any player as far as like, I swear any other player in his position, people would have called washed about a year ago. But Decay, no, they still have a heavy copium for this guy. It's unbelievable. He's actually getting away with murder. He's a fucking bag getter. Is what
He
he's doing
might
right
as
now.
well just be life coach, man. He's playing
Guy's actually
hand
a fucking
block,
bag getter.
and it's ridiculous.
It's at a point where I feel like most of the overrating of where Washington should be is based on people overrating Decay. And maybe also a little bit Mac.
I think Mag makes a sense.
Let me give you some proof. People in this community would sooner say that Hisu is washed before they will say that Decay is washed. That's the fucking truth.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've
well,
seen I have seen more people say Hisu is washed than Decay is washed.
yeah,
That's how much
fair.
fucking rope Decay has. Why does he have so much rope? Why?
Thing is,
Was
Hisu was never
clean?
dirty. No, he was never dirty. He was never
He had
dirty.
the Sombra. No. You have to give him credit. He did have the Sombra. And his Sojourn actually is good. Like, if we're walking, and I know this has like no credence, I'm just like speaking tangentially here. If we're walking into like Sojourn, like Junker Queen, like Toronto actually might be decent.
You know
Like,
what
his
else?
Sojourn's
You know
kind
what
of
else?
cracked.
I've only got one season left of rope for Yaki as well.
True.
I'm serious.
Yes.
True.
I've only got one season worth of rope left. I'm sick of this guy getting the bag too.
Yep.
Oh, but he's carrying New York. Yeah, to 1 win. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, really carrying him, guys. Cheers.
Yeah, he carried Mayhem to 1 win last year too. How many fucking years is this guy going to have to carry teams to 1 win? I'm sorry, but he's about 1 season off from being a bag getter in my books as well.
Yeah.
And people, you're fucking coping if you think otherwise.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck anymore. This guy
We
is
need like a paycheck stealer stamp.
That's the thing, dude. Like, what Yaki was is Pelican now.
What Yaki was? No, don't say that. You can't do my man's like that.
No. What I'm saying is, like, back in the day, a lot of people wanted Yaki.
Yes.
Because they think
rightfully so.
They thought like this kid is cracked, right? Like,
Sure.
plays like such a aggressive style and like gets away with shit just based on the level of skill. Right now,
excuses.
Like,
Go on.
here's a quote. Should I say that quote? Okay, let me preface because it's kind of fucked up, and I'm not going to say who it is. I'm just going to say it wasn't Unter because it sounds like an Unter quote, and I don't want to throw this guy under the bus. The quote was, "I want Pelican so bad. If I could get Pelican, okay, I would shoot my dog in front of my mom if I got Pelican." Then the person said nothing for 10 seconds and goes, "I just looked at my dog and told him he's getting it." I'm just like, what the fuck? And this is basically like, in that sense, people think of Yaki like they think of, right?
Used to, at
So
least.
we narrowed it down to only coaches of dogs. Here's the difference between Yaki and Pelican. I think Pelican is still like real top quality, and
Yes.
his team's fucking actually playing, and he's showing that versus top teams, and he's winning still.
Yeah.
Like Houston are not the best team in the world, but they're fucking still winning.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. I just think people make unbelievable amounts of excuses for Yaki and Decay when it's been 2 years of this shit. I don't know.
I'll come to a
saying.
minor defense because I think I mostly agree. I think that New York has been pretty poorly built, if I'm going to say that, like bold face. Like, yeah, I don't know that like Yaki. You have to be very careful with Yaki. Yaki's like that type of like Magic the Gathering card that like is the archetypical card. That's the piece. That's the centerpiece of like your whole deck, right? You can't just take him and just jam him into a bunch of decks, right? It just doesn't work. It doesn't synergize. It plays too fast. It plays too slow. Like that is the piece you have to build around. And if you don't do that, you are gambling, my friend.
That's fine. Yiska won't say this, so I will. People overrate Yaki because they look at him like, oh, this guy's carrying, the rest of his team's letting him down. Or maybe the rest of the team, or maybe Yaki's doing something that makes it hard for the rest of his team to work with him. I don't know.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I don't know. Let me just leave it at that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm sick of people defending this guy. I don't know. I'm moving on.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I think like you need a very
The fuck is
particular
making
place.
excuses for 2 years in a row. Bro, this guy could play. This guy could be four seasons deep. Same performances this year, last year, and people still keep defending him. I don't know.
Teacher AVRL, I have my hand raised. Can I ask a question?
Very quickly because we need to go to 14.
I want to revisit a take I had earlier on in the season that I believe I mentioned the show. Maybe somebody in the comments can link me the timestamp because I do want to revisit this. Any thoughts on my take that checkmate is Neo Yaki?
I don't know.
Checkmate better than Yaki? Better teammate, better player? Would have him on the franchise? I don't know.
I would much
Too hard to
rather have
say.
Checkmate than Yaki. I can tell you that
Yes,
much.
agree. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
All right.
Like,
Well, Yiska said it, not me. Let's move on to 14.
Who did I have at 14? Oh, okay.
Right.
Bingo.
Ooh. Got a Chengdu hater, I see. Yeah, you go
Let's go,
first.
Avril.
You go
Let's
first.
go, Avril.
You go first.
Okay.
We talked about Chengdu first.
So, but what's the decision here that I had to make? I think it's
This guy's got Chengdu below Washington. Oh,
yeah,
shit.
Chengdu
that's,
below
that's
Washington.
symbolic, my friend.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Well, fuck.
Me neither. I'm not sure either, guys.
Look, like this is. I feel like the problem really is that none of these teams hit their metas. Like none of those odds were hit at all.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know how much more of a meta Chengdu needs to get.
Did we play ball?
We could have played it last stage,
We did play a bit of ball. We did play a bit of ball.
A bit, yeah. I mean,
Chengdu had their best stage so far in the last stage.
I would say so,
right,
yeah.
Right, yeah.
They were just too far in the hole.
Yeah. And
also, they did lose to. I can't remember. Continue, please.
Yeah.
Trying to
I
remember
feel like it's totally reasonable to say that Chengdu is better than Justice. The theoretical upside of Justice is still weighing heavily. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, that's true.
I feel like I'm now resenting the Yiska of an hour ago when I made that ranking. So, no, like I think it's totally fine. I would even say it's totally fine if you had Chengdu above Toronto. That's as far as you could theoretically go.
Where do I have Chengdu in Toronto? Okay, never mind. That's actually based.
That's the thing about Chengdu. The thing about Chengdu for me is like Chengdu and Philly both went 3-3.
Yeah.
In the midseason Madness qualifiers.
Right.
I'll leave it at that.
Based.
I'm subtweeting hardcore today. I don't know. 14 Boston.
Come on now.
I think when I look at Boston, these guys right now to me are like the king of the bottom 5 in it.
Yeah.
To be honest. And the reason why I think that is when I look at their games, I look at their quality, I'm like, shit. First of all, they do beat Paris and New York, and they beat Washington.
They beat the teams
Vegas. They've actually beaten all 4 of the other teams over the course of the season. Beyond that, they've also had some competitive results. Like we kind of touched upon this, but 2-3 Atlanta, 2-3 Florida. They probably should have beaten Florida, but whatever. I think no, actually, you know what? I take that back. Florida are a better team than Boston. Maybe that's deserved. 2-3 Houston,
Yes, yeah.
1-3 Toronto, 1-3 Glass. Like, I mean, I think it's not bad. This is a team that's kind of close to breaching that above that top 5. Sorry, the bottom 5, or breaching beyond the bottom 5. Like they're trying really hard to get out of the bottom 5, but I think they are the closest team in NA to get out of the bottom 5.
Yep, would agree. I think like even going back to Kickoff Clash, I know that I soapbox this quite a bit. Like I think if we did a full NA round robin, I think people would be like pretty surprised at like where Boston ends up. I think we play out the midseason qualifiers like 9 more times to give us a flat even 10. I genuinely believe Boston probably should have won their head-to-head against Florida in week 3. I think that they probably could beat Houston game 5. Like I think that the perception of Boston is on the cusp of change, as long as maybe this Junker Queen stuff isn't as crazy as maybe we think it is. So I think as it stands right now, I agree wholeheartedly with what Avril said. This is the team to like break into like the mid pack and like really be a contender.
Right. If the Punker Queen is the go-to and Punk's just
you got that same type attack bonus. You got like the home field advantage. Come on now.
And Boston's ranking.
Boston season.
I'm ready for 13. I'm ready for 13. I'm expecting good things for Boston Summer Showdown. But again, this is not a prediction. This is still based on how they've done so far. But I'm saying they're 14 in my books with the ability to punch up. 13 now. Who be the 13th?
Who did I have? Okay.
We Chung done it.
We Chung done
it. Yiska, you want to defend Washington 13 real quick? To be
I mean,
fair,
it's
juicing them.
I already
you
did
put
that.
them.
So.
Okay, you did. All right.
Yeah.
Good, okay.
Yeah, I mean, implied by like putting Washington.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chengdu lower, right?
Mhm.
Man, when we look at this list, you have got Boston so fucking low. You have Washington 13 and Boston 16. I just realized.
Yeah, because one team won 5 games and the
True,
other won
yes.
4 games. Like,
Yes, that's fair. I think in terms of
Oh,
form,
guys,
no.
I know what's going on. Yiska's just copying the standings.
yeah,
I see.
yeah, that's what I'm doing because
This
like
guy's
that's how
copying
the rules will
standings.
end out, and like the
Okay,
interesting part
okay.
happens at the fringe. I think what is fair is to look at strength of schedule because it's very like it's easy to think like, oh yeah, this was just 1 round robin or this was 2 round robins for APAC. It wasn't.
Mhm.
Like some teams had clearly like
Of course.
like
Double
Titans
shock.
had double shock.
Stages and totally.
If I wanted to be extremely based or like just super spicy, I would put Chengdu in the top 12. The problem here is they didn't make the midseason, even though it's like not a global thing about making the midseason. They had to qualify in their own region. But
Mhm.
the reason I have them 13th is I think they are the best team that did not qualify into the midseason that maybe could have been there. Like they are like if one team had to call in second, be like, oh, who's next? It would be Chengdu.
Yeah,
who's next.
agreed.
I'm saying like that's kind of my position on this team at the moment.
Yeah.
Part of the other reason why I have them at 13th is because, and I do actually know who I put 12 and above, is because when you see who I have 12 and above, and I explain that, it'll sort of make more sense. I can't put Chengdu above that right now. Is my
Mhm.
position, but I think Chengdu are close. I think they're the next best team outside of that 12.
Agreed. I think that like to your point earlier, Yiska, that like they haven't hit their meta. That's kind of like where I'm concerned with them, just as like a tangential topic, like moving forward, is I really don't know what this team looks like in like future metas. Where like if we're gonna like talk about Houston like playing like a big gamble meta, when it comes to like preseason like team building, I feel like Chengdu now. Obviously, there's a big asterisk there, but like this team is the odds say that I think Chengdu falls. I didn't factor that in. I agree with AVRL. I think he kind of hits the nail on the head that like one team calls in sick. Who's the next best team in terms of form that like should have been in the midseason madness? I would also say the Hunters. I think if like Kickoff Clash goes a little bit differently, I think they probably could have made it over some of these teams that we've put above them. But would echo a lot of what AVRL said.
Yeah. Based. Yeah.
That means any additional comments? I think Yiska, you said you kind of already talked about Washington's.
Yeah.
Anything else you could add there? No.
I mean, somehow, like it's incredible how this team always feels like it has 30% less wins than it actually does.
Yeah, that's true.
Actually, can I ask you this? Do you think, given the same given the same scenario that we just painted between Joe and I, if one of the teams had to call in sick and another team had to replace him, is the next best team Washington in your eyes? Given that you put them 13th.
On average, yes, but I would hope that Chengdu has a good day.
Okay.
And I will also say, like, because like this is sort of like looking at the first half, and if you apply recency bias, which it would mean like, you know, you want the team that's better in the second stage to be at midseason, then yes, I'm telling you.
Isn't the point of a power rankings to apply some recency bias?
It depends. I think it's
otherwise, if you don't apply the recency bias, it's just literally copy the standings. Then, you know what I mean? Like,
sure, but I feel like, should I really fucking dismantle this show's format right now? Like, I think like this has no value. We're not going to play the things that like we're currently evaluating. Why are we not doing power rankings on the fucking extrapolation of what we think people will play Jugger with? That would have been.
That's not a power ranking. What the fuck? That's a prediction.
Well, that's for weak bitches who don't have scrim insights.
Then we do a different show with a different ranking. We do a scrim.
Yeah, we'll do that
ranking.
next week.
That's
Yiska.
not a power
It's
ranking. That's a scrim
fine.
box ranking.
You
It's
fucking
literally a different
jabroni.
thing.
Look, like I'm not rating the dresses of beauty pageants in 1974 because it doesn't pertain to the to the now, you know.
If we're doing the 1974
He lives in the now.
beauty pageant power ranking, then we are doing that is what's relevant. Anyway, do 12.
Yeah, 212.
Do 12. Do 12.
It's just like a.
Do we all have the same 12? I wonder.
What happened here?
Oh shit! Oh.
Wow. Okay.
What?
That's spicy.
Okay, past AVRL is fucking off the rocker. What the
I mean,
fuck?
is he though?
I'm out of here.
I don't think it's that crazy.
I'm out of here. Goodbye.
Like
I don't have
if
to say shit.
What
if
the
you're-
I'm
fuck?
just doing whatever I want
if
now.
you're
I'm off
if
the
you're
rails.
like
I've gone
weighing
rogue. I've gone complete rogue.
if you're weighing the midseason madness, like
I like that
yeah.
Joe's defending me.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this is reasonable. I think that's the spiciest take we've seen, and even then, like I could see it. Yeah, I get it. They played one comp in the kickoff clash and got to the finals. Yes, you have to applause there. That's great. But if you're like weighing the midseason a little bit more than that, they didn't give me anything to work with. They played Lucio Mora. They played the Irish lady, and it wasn't very good. Right? Like I don't hate it. I'm here for it.
Who did
The spiciest take so far.
Right. Go on.
Is that-
I
is
got
that-
to look at this. I feel
is
like
that-
they had put some pretty good wins, but maybe not.
Is that Joe's Paris at 18th? No. How about you guys do Toronto first, and then I do
Sure.
mine last.
Yeah. I think I was debating on putting Toronto higher. This was the team. I don't know if how like you guys did this. Maybe you resonate with this, but this was the team that I had kind of high after what I saw from midseason. I was like, okay, you know, maybe we overrated Shanghai, but they still played them close, and I thought that was actually pretty impressive. I don't think Shanghai's a bad team, so like I weighed that a little bit. You know, I give them some kudos, and then I'm like, well, are they better than this team? Nope, no, they aren't, and they go down. And are they better than this team? No, they aren't, and they go down. And then they somehow ended in 12. Like this is like the Philly or Atlanta team of seasons past, where it's just like they kind of just they're the litmus test. I'm like, do I take Boston or do I take Toronto? Okay, yeah, we take Toronto. Or do we take this team? I don't think so. You know, it's like you compare them to Toronto. They're kind of like the benchmark almost.
What I don't understand, I actually just want to attack AVRL, like relentlessly. But okay, I gotta keep it on topic.
I drew my teams out of a hat.
Okay. I mean, that's a pretty
don't
accurate
get it.
hat.
You
That's
don't
pretty
understand.
impressive.
Fucking throw that head away. What the fuck?
You know what hat I drew it out of?
What?
Do you want to know what hat I drew it out of?
Which one?
Here we go.
The blue one?
A sorting hat.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a Hufflepuff for that.
Hey, I resent that.
Sorting hat, don't lie.
So okay, right. I'm aiming to defend Toronto in 12th. They are currently in 12th in the standings. Based.
You
Now-
motherfucker just
now-
literally just copy the standings. I literally
now-
accuse you of copying
now-
the standings, and that's exactly what
Now
you're
I'm
doing.
attacking your point because how the fuck do you have Dallas lower than Mayhem when Mayhem got fucking 3-0 shalooped when they played? When like
Well, it's not head to head.
no, it's not head to head, but like
head to heads.
okay, like Dallas lost against Shock in Atlanta, so okay, they're not the top tier
Yeah.
team. They beat everyone else. That's
They
not
barely
true
beat New York.
for fucking Toronto or fucking Mayhem.
Sure. Agreed.
This
It's
guy's
not
gonna
true.
go crazy when he sees where I put Mayhem.
Yes, I
I
will.
mean, I'm here for someone.
No, like Mayhem
but-
is mid at best at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, so I'll explain a little bit how the sausage is made when we get to the Mayhem, but I agree. Like, Mayhem, I love what they have. It's just like the execution sometimes is like very confusing to me. I'll say that. but
Sure.
we'll say that
All right.
for Mayhem.
Cool. Show me 11.
I'm so ready to hurt.
I'm loving this. I was like, maybe these are all just going to be kind of samey, and here we are. 11. Okay, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah.
We're back on track. Yiska and I have Mayhem at 11. AVRL has Toronto. Everything is right in the world.
I'm actually not gonna not explain anything until we get to, let me count, 9.
Okay.
Wait, hang on. Is my math 9? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your mayhem slot is soon to fill up, right? That's going to happen. I mean,
it can't be that far forward.
Actually, you know what's going to happen is my internet will randomly cut out in the next 20 minutes, and I won't explain anything.
Yeah, I hope
And
so.
you're going to upload this episode. I'll be gone for the rest of it, and you're going to get nothing out of me.
I mean, I'm going to like you already submitted your rating. I can make fun of you in your absence. I'm capable.
The one thing I will suggest is like just for audio listeners, because they don't have a like a physical representation.
The audio listeners don't know where I put my teams currently.
Yes. So once we hit the halfway mark, can we go through and like list out where we have every team? Is that fair?
Sure.
At like what position at 20th? Like this person has this, something like that.
We should just be doing that every rank.
Yeah.
Maybe.
We should be updating it every rank.
You shouldn't just say "fuck you."
So
we're trying to think of you, audio
Let's
listeners.
just do it now. Sorry, we forgot about the audio listeners
It's
again.
okay.
Come on, guys, what's going on?
That happens.
Yeah.
Everyone put Vancouver at 20.
Yes.
Joe put Guangzhou at 19. I put them at 17. Yiska put them at 18. Yiska and I put Paris at 19. Joe put Paris at 18. I had New York at 18. Yiska had New York at 17. Joe had New York at 16. I had Valiant at 16. Yiska had Valiant at 15 rather, and Joe had Valiant at 17. So actually, like all kind of somewhat one within each other, just like within 3, we'll say. Even this next one is within 3. Both Joe and I had Boston at 14. Yiska had them at 16. Chengdu, Joe and I had them at 13. Yiska had them at the 14th. So again, that's actually within 2. Seems pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Washington, Joe and I had them at 15. Yiska had them at 13. Toronto, I have them at 11th. These two have them at 12th. Mayhem, these guys have them at 11th. I currently haven't ranked Mayhem yet. I have Dallas Fuel at 12th.
Yeah.
For reasons unknown. Completely unknown.
That's the
reasons.
spiciest pick thus far.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it. I'm appreciating it.
By the way,
fans in shambles.
I spun the globe and I just threw a dart at it. And it landed on Texas.
I mean, they got enough land. Like, it's kind of hard to miss.
For the audio listeners,
on Texas, and for some reason didn't choose Houston. Weird.
For the audio listeners, Dallas Fuel is currently in the global position of 4th.
True.
But in an AVRL appreciation rank of 12th.
I mean, they haven't looked good. I don't think it's that crazy. I know that sounds crazy.
I don't need to defend myself because Joe's done it all for me, so I ain't saying shit.
This is just like it's.
I'm here to defend spicy takes. I appreciate bold calls, and I think Dallas looked like poo.
You don't understand. You don't want Joe on your side in these arguments.
No, you do. I'm a great.
That's
I'm
when
a
you know.
defender.
That's when you know
I'm a
you
defender
fucked
of
up.
creativity and form.
I want you guys to know I don't give a fuck about the standings because that's not how power rankings work. This is not a standing show,
right? They are.
It wouldn't be a show if there was a standing show. It'd just be like, look at the standings. There it is.
Correct. And as per the definition outlined to me, this is reasonably within the definition.
So you guys have. So is this? I can't remember if we had a discussion about Mayhem yet. This is just like, yeah, they're better than Toronto, and Toronto's 12. So
I'd love to put Mayhem higher. This is my defense of like maybe a higher rated Mayhem. I think there are times at which, like, especially in Kickoff Clash, I was actually pretty impressed. I thought Hydron coming out on Sojourn looked quite good, especially within the first 2 weeks. Probably was like my second favorite Sojourn in terms of like just like how well they were performing. Obviously, you know, in hindsight, we see that that's probably not the case when you have people like Merritt. And I think XC definitely held his own. My problem really comes down to like the dysfunction of the supports and the tanks. They do not seem like they're on the same page. I'm going to say most of the time. I think when Mayhem, I love Mayhem because they are like open to being a little bit more creative. You see them adopting in some Reinhardt on some, Reinhardt favored maps. They played a little Doomfist. They played a little bit of Zarya last stage. Like, yeah, they played Sombra. I get it, but like Checkmate was kind of cracked on it. Check the stats. I don't know. So like, yeah, like they appealed to like my selfish tendencies of like, hey, play the funny heroes and like do the funny stuff and like also be successful. But then they also kind of throw sometimes, and that's like kind of where we have to kind of meet them in the middle. So like, yeah, I could probably put like Mayhem anywhere from where I put them 11. I could put them like within 11, 10. I could put them like top 10 maybe. I could argue that. I feel like that's a fair argument to make. I wouldn't personally, but like I could see it. I'll say that.
All right, unless Yiska, you got something else to add to that?
No, I'm still waiting for your Mayhem.
Let's go 10. Let's go, not happening. Let's go number 10.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh, you said Mayhem? That's coming, but not right now. Let's go number 10.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, we're mostly there.
Whoa.
Philly this low?
Okay, so Joe and I have London at 10, and Yiska put Philly below London.
Die.
Yeah.
What?
Where are they in the rankings? Is that their 10th? Really? That's crazy to think about.
No,
So
it's not. They fucking suck dick half the season. What are you saying?
I need every listener, every viewer, listener to understand. Yiska does not understand how power rankings work, and from 14th up until 10th, he's literally just copied.
Okay, I'm about to read out what you told me because you're
he's about to put London in. He's about to put London in.
We discussed this prior.
In fact, you don't need it. You can predict all of Yiska's rankings from here on out because you can just look at the standings.
No, because the relative distribution of NA in APAC work out differently. The point is, like, we discussed this in the pre-show, and there's no other definition as a salient towards that because you told me the entire season, not what is like. It doesn't matter what is. If you had told me
everything, I just said everything up till now.
I feel like this is a great example.
Right, you shouldn't. That is not power rankings.
What is that then?
Power rankings is if you told me we on the last day of mid-season tournament we play like 1,000 games and see whoever is coming out on top.
Okay. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to redo your entire power rankings based on that. Then.
I don't think it's like too far off. Like I think there's some like gonna be some duds in here. Like I don't think Philly's 10th, but I think this is a good example of what I would call weaponized compliance, where I think Yiska saw the rules and said, "Okay, these are the rules."
Yeah,
Yiska. I think Yiska and I had very different understandings of the brief. Is what I want to say.
I discussed it.
That's fine. That's fair.
I sat here and told you, guys, this is not going to be very entertaining. And you're like, nah, it's fine. And I'm like, everything that you're saying based on the outlet.
Copy the standings. I didn't know you were just gonna fucking copy
it. I'm showing you. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. This is what I said. This is what I said to Eric. Wait.
He's not only. Let me tell you how. Okay, so far we've done 10 rankings. Out of 10 total rankings, Yiska's copied this many. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't change it. Hold up. I'm counting. Don't change it. I'm counting. Get this.
The squiggles are the Philly squiggles.
Okay, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out of 10 total rankings, Yiska's fucking copied 7 from the standings.
Yeah.
7 out of 10 are the exact same as the standings.
Yeah.
To be fair, a lot of those aren't too far off where we put them. We can be honest there. Like they're not exactly the standings, but like they're not too far off.
It makes me believe that Yiska misread the other 3 teams. Like he actually should have copied the other 3 teams too, but he just kind of fucked up. He just didn't realize.
No, those are the APAC teams moving up and down relative to the.
So they're not exactly it. So like, why do you think that Philly is like exempt from like any like semblance of like APAC being like maybe a little bit more
because they're capable of losing to the Valiant, and they're capable of really capable of also losing to the Charge on a bad day.
Sure. Yeah.
Like
That's fair.
this is such a feast of famine team. And yes, of course, like more
No, they
recently,
didn't
it's,
lose the charge.
No,
what he's
but
saying is they like on the bad day they could.
Yeah.
He's saying.
Didn't they even play close one of their matches?
They've played 2 games versus the charge, and their games have gone 3-1 charge and 3-0 charge.
All
so
right.
I don't know where this losing the charge thing comes from.
Right. I don't remember what the 3-1 looked like, but yeah, I mean, bottom line is like we're once again in the mid tier here, and I think on average, Philly was just mid tier. Like, yes, if you ask me on the last day of midseason madness while they are having COVID, how good was this team? Then, I mean, at that point, I'm also just copying the midseason outcome.
Which obviously, like, not great either, but I don't know. That's fair.
What do you mean?
I mean,
that's the brief. That is, if you read the brief correctly, you should be copying.
Yes, because
if anything, you should be weaponizing that.
I don't know. You guys construct your worldview based on headcanon. I'm looking at empirical evidence, you know? I'm looking at the numbers.
I'm about to give you some
I don't even like watching
right now.
Overwatch. I like watching Overwatch through Excel spreadsheets.
I love this, Yiska, in contrast to the Yiska that's like, maybe Seoul loses. I don't know. Mars has spoken to me. Maybe they just lose. I don't know.
Yeah, that's all
right.
Esports history.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know if you want to talk about London yet. I'm about to talk about them soon, but not yet.
Yeah, I mean we can lump London together. I don't think we're too far off. I think the big one was Philly.
I think Philly is not.
Did you want to say anything about London in particular, or?
I think London
apparently just moved on.
I think London in general, just to like speak on their behalf, I think like if anything, you could use them as like the litmus test, but because they're a little bit more stylistic, it's harder to judge. I think they like you can really argue like matchup versus matchup and like how the team performs. I think they've looked a little bit more consistent on compositions that aren't centered around Reinhardt. I think Hadi has proven that he's like has a little bit more under the hood than people necessarily give him credit for. I think, you know, the rest of the team outside of, let's say, Sparker has maybe some consistency issues where they like look really good and then they're just like kind of absent. But yeah, I think like they're like the most like mid-table team. I would say that kind of 10th.
Okay. I saw a really spicy take for 9th. Shall we reveal 9th?
Okay.
Should. Believe that's
wow.
Me. Yeah.
Oh shit.
I'm done, man.
This is hating. This is just hating.
No, this isn't hating. This is just like you. This is having a team of world champions, and so audio listeners know. I put.
Wait. So explain. So what did you put down?
I put down for audio listeners. I put down Shanghai Dragons at the 9th best team in the world. Right, top 10. We thought they were in form. We thought that they had their shit together, and it was, I think, very proven at the Midseason Madness tournament that was not the case. Yes, in Kickoff Clash they did perform like relatively well, and like they were the only team to like battle Seoul close, and that's fine and dandy. But what I'm seeing out of Fleta, what I'm seeing out of this team, and like how you should probably play Overwatch 2, I think that like this quote from Moon really rings out, where like I think he accurately identified that this team is struggling with like the pace of Overwatch 2. And it's not just a Void thing, it's not just a Fate thing, like it is an entire like team dilemma that I don't know that it is going to be solved overnight. I don't think it's like a skill thing. I don't like it's something that's just going to have to like be ironed out of them, and I think that's going to take a lot of time. And I think that's what we saw at Midseason Madness. They're not a bad team. I think like you could probably argue them a few spots higher. I just was very disappointed with what I saw at this tournament. I do not think
this is an expression of feelings.
I've one thing to say to this before Yiska goes. Yiska, I think you're gonna back me on this one. I've only got one piece of shit. I forgot the word. I'll just say counterpoint. There was a better word I had, but I've only got one. I've only got 1 pound. I've got one great. Thank you. Got one great rebuttal to that. You haven't ranked Dallas yet, and Shanghai 3-0 Dallas.
True. It's true. I trust and believe they're not too much higher. They're not too much higher.
What I have to say is, do you really think the Houston Outlaws are a better team than the Shanghai Dragons?
With what we've seen, yes, I do.
I don't believe
I believe that. I believe that.
Like, I think
Wow.
also, like, Philly can be, but, like, I don't know.
I think they are. I think they clearly are. I think I agree that like they could be as high as maybe third best in the world and maybe also be like 10th. Like they're a very swingy team. I agree with you there. But like with what we've seen thus far in terms of form, I think Philly is a good team. Genuinely a good team.
Right, the rest of it went like this, especially for the audio listeners who are probably wondering where the other two ninth positions are. Yiska has London at 9th, actually kind of reasonable.
Yeah.
And then wait for this one. I Florida Mayhem at 9th. Let's go!
I'm not mad at that.
No, notably above London, which is interesting to me.
Paid for by the Albert Dicko mode.
Yeah. Now I see. See, count with me, Joe.
I'm
hands
so
up.
over this.
Both hands up.
He finds 2 good points about like anything. He's just like, yes, ham fist, get it in there.
Hands up, Joe. Hands up. Okay. So, how many Australian coaches does Florida Mayhem have? What? How many Australian coaches does London have? 0.
None.
Now we get it. We found the reason why, despite beating the Atlanta Reign, an eventual like burner of a team in the midseason madness, the London Spitfire, despite also having a better record, just like
I'll speak on that.
Right? Okay, you speak.
Who cares about regular records? I don't care about records.
Okay.
I'm going to explain all 4 of them back to back. Except for Dallas, I won't talk about them at all. I'm just going to go from 11.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. I will talk about all of them. Also, after this, you'll all see why Joe's Shanghai 9th is way more spicy than my Dallas 12th. Again, don't look at standings. Standings are a lie. Standings don't mean anything in this discussion. Because I am, unlike Yiska who copies the standings, I'm like Omega recency bias. I'm like so recency biased that you couldn't be more recency biased than how recency biased I am.
Okay.
So
you saw scrims with Drunker Queen instead.
So this is how it goes. So I go Florida, London, Toronto, Dallas. And here's why. First of all, who's the highest? Florida. Florida had a really close game versus Philly. And I have Philly, unlike Yiska, who is Philly low, I have Philly high. Because I think Philly did do really well. Because I'm Omega recency biased. I think Philly did do really, really well in this tournament. Philly also ended up being the spark, which is pretty big in my books. But we'll get to that little bit later on. Florida played Philly really close. The other thing that Florida did was they beat London, but they also ended up being the team to beat the Rhine. Because I think to beat London, you have to beat the Rhine. You have to show that you can defeat the Rhine. And I was saying coming into this tournament that I didn't feel good about Rhine. I did not think that Rhine. I said this verbatim on record. You can check on the podcast. I didn't think Rhine was going to be strong this tournament. I thought the Rhine was going to be. I used some more aggressive language about being exposed and whatnot. There's nothing against Hardy or London. They're going to play what they're going to play because that's their style. But I'm just saying, like, I don't think that was going to be good enough to make it deep in the tournament. There's nothing. Yeah, and to add to that evidence, any other team that could have played Rhine either played a worse version of Rhine than London did anyway, like Atlanta, or they didn't play Rhine at all. Or if they did play Rhine, it was only versus London. For example, Atlanta only played the Rhine versus London. They didn't bring up the Rhine at all versus any other team. Glads are the only other good, like really, really good Rhine team.
True.
And they didn't fucking play that at all. They didn't bring it out even one time. It just wasn't relevant in this meta. Rhine just was not a good hero that was super relevant in this meta unless you're trying to force it.
Mhm.
And again, I don't begrudge London for trying to force it because that's been their identity.
Yeah.
And I think you got to do what's working for you. I think you got to play what you're strong at and do what's working for you. But Florida beating them, I think, was a pretty big moment because I was pretty down on Florida after they lost to Houston. But beating London is a pretty big deal, given that London just beat the Atlanta Reign, and then the further evidence is Florida also playing close to Philly. Like both of those things back to back, I got to back Florida here. I think Florida the best of these 4 teams. That's why I'm backing Florida. So let's go down the list. Who do I have next? I have London. And given that, okay, well, London only lost to Florida 2-3. Fair enough. They beat Atlanta 3-1, but Atlanta came third. That's a pretty fucking strong result. Given that Atlanta also got baited into playing the Rhine Mirror versus London, I do wonder how Atlanta would have gone if they did a little bit more Florida mayhem and try to just like play around the Rhine rather than just match it. So I got to give London something. You know, I got to give them some flowers. You know, not the whole bouquet, just a few roses here or there.
Sure.
And then who's below that? Toronto, despite getting 0-3'd by Dragons, played them reasonably competitively. I think the scoreline doesn't show the full story. Toronto had a close call versus Houston. And Houston, I haven't shown where my Houston placing is, but I have Houston above these 4 teams, right? So obviously I have Houston above these guys, which means something. Toronto played them really close. They had an okay series versus Dragons. Ultimately, though, didn't beat them still in 0-3. Then you have Dallas, which is the 4th out of these 4 teams in 12th. They got kind of smoked by the Dragons. It was not as close as the Toronto game. Toronto's Dragons game was far more competitive. Dragons versus Dallas game was quite a bit more favored towards the Dragons. So much so that I think it pretty much baited everyone into believing that Dragons would be super good versus the Shock. Dallas lost 1-3 to the Fusion. I also don't think that was outside of like Kings Row and maybe Oasis a little bit. Route 66 was a full hold. In fact, Route 66 was such an omega bad throw from Philadelphia Fusion and Jin for picking that map. And then somehow they still won it. Like they got a fuller hold versus Dallas on that, excuse me. Like, and then they got 122 meters on Queens. They cap out. I think they capped out on Queen Street actually versus Dallas. I can't remember. They 122.23 meters. They could like really stomp Dallas on that map. And then, you know, they beat Florida 2-3, and then the rest of the history, they keep going. They make 4th in the tournament. So given all of that, I think Dallas performed the worst out of those 4 teams based on where I look at the evidence. Florida played Fusion way closer. London played Mayhem really close. London also beat Atlanta. Dallas didn't do anything of note. They got smacked around by Shanghai, got smacked around by Fusion, then lost. That's why I have them in 12th.
Fair enough. Don't have any arguments there. I think that was.
And I'm not looking at any regular season standings. I frankly don't care. I'm being as recency biased as possible because that's what I think power rankings are. And your latest results speak towards your placement on the power rankings, to which people are like, oh, but you talked about the regular season standings for the other teams. Yeah, the other teams below 12th. From 13 to 20 because they didn't fucking make the tournament, so that's all they had to work with. But the teams that you'll notice that everything from 12th and above, which is Dallas and beyond, did play in the tournament, which is why I have the specific ranking for them.
Okay.
And that is why I have these teams in the order that I have them in. I hope that made a bit of sense. Okay. Yiska's like, fuck, he's kind of right. Let's go towards 8th.
Where are we at? 8.
Oh.
Yeah, that's about right.
Joe getting a bit based.
Yeah.
Again, I can't believe. Okay, so here's what just happened. Dallas 8th for Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Yiska has Atlanta in 8th. Okay. Again, just copy the standings just for what it's worth. And I have Houston in 8th.
Yeah, I don't think you and I are too far off.
You put the team that got smacked 0-3 by Dragons above the Dragons.
Yes.
Is my position.
So then that's very valid. I think that's 100% correct. I think for me, when I'm looking at like the rankings of these teams for the first half of the season, It sounds like I put a little bit more weight in comparison to you on Kickoff Clash. And that's where I found that Dallas did perform like pretty well. And that's like where they kind of edged who I think Shanghai are in terms of form a little bit out of it's splitting hairs for me. Like it was hard not to, for that simple fact that like Shanghai like genuinely like, beat them. But across this first half of the season, if you had to ask me if Dallas or Shanghai was the better team, I'd say it's pretty close, but I'd say that Dallas probably has the slight edge. Ever so slight. They do play Irish Lady, which I'm not a fan of, but it is what it is.
And okay. I'll accept that for now. We can accept that and move on to Yiska's Atlanta 8. Now, this one, you have to do a really good job of defending because they did just come third.
Yeah, help me.
They did just come third, and you put them 8th. That's 5 below their tournament ranking.
Do we really have to keep hammering how you guys told me a definition of...
I didn't tell you nothing. You can take however you want.
I told you, like, that what you gave me was not going to be, like, any different.
Did you not consider the mid-season tournament at all then? Like, it seems like you just forgot.
No, I did. As to the extent of bonus points.
What? What does that mean? What do you mean?
I mean, if you get you consider, like, if you told me, consider the first half of the season. Okay?
I just said everything up until the first half of the season. I didn't mean way kickoff clash equal to the mid-season madness. I didn't say that.
I mean, inherently, I would always do that.
Hang on, why did Joe get the message but you didn't? I don't understand. Like, I feel like
we
Joe
discussed it literally. Like, I told you for 5 minutes this was going to be garbage before the show, and now it's.
I just don't get how, like, we all sat there under the same understanding. Well, apparently under the same understanding, and Joe and I are on one page, and then you just went on a completely different page.
I think it's just a different interpretation of like what the parameters were. That, like, what do you think of the teams at this point? Not predicting, right? And I think like if you are to just take the standings, I think that is one interpretation.
Like the power ranking is like who's the best right now. Like how the teams ranked right at this moment.
True.
Which means inherently that the more recent games count for more in terms of weighting.
Depends on how you view that. I think that you could argue that. I would also argue that to a lesser extent. I've taken this lens and looked at how these teams have performed across the first half of the season. I've put a little bit more weight into Kickoff Clash, like I previously explained. That, like, yeah, I think that also weighs into how these teams have performed this first half of the season.
I've basically ignored everything outside the Midseason Madness tournament.
Sure, and again, I think that's like a fair interpretation.
Season did not happen. The only thing that happened was the Midseason Madness tournament, and the rest of the season simply didn't happen. That's how I'm doing it.
That's fair. And I think that all three are like correct in their own ways. I think we've all abided by the rules of like, this isn't a prediction. I don't think anybody's predicting. And yeah,
I think Yiska's one in a really weird angle. You could assume it could be a prediction. You're like, oh, maybe Atlanta do bounce below from 3 down to 8.
I'll say this. I think it is like kind of surprising that Atlanta are 8th in the rankings with like how they performed.
So given that they did come 3rd, would you change your mind about the 8th place position you have?
Okay, if we're literally talking about the let's say the last day of when people still cared about that patch state.
Sure, yeah.
I think they probably overperformed at Midseason Madness.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably a little based, a little bit. Yeah.
Because like it could have been much sooner if some things happen a little differently and they meet London twice, for instance.
I'll do you one better.
Yeah.
I can back you up with one even better than that. If we revisit the Seoul versus Atlanta game,
Sure.
and just like a 3% adjustment for Seoul, and they win that match, then your 8th place ranking for Atlanta would be fucking accurate.
Yeah. Now, of course, after that, I'm not sure what they took on day 2. It must have been some hot shit. Like they had like the limitless unlock or something. Because like of course like they were just like the Undertaker for a bunch of specifically APAC teams. So yeah, it's a weird team to judge generally, right? Like it's.
Well, actually, I can. When we get to some of those teams, I can speak to. I can give my opinion on like what happened. You have to remember they also beat Houston, so it's not like they just ran through.
Yeah.
This, I think we need to be. I'm gonna be really pissed if people become really revisionist about the whole Seoul Atlanta thing, because that was not obviously not a one-sided game. That was a mega close game that could have literally gone either way. That's a coin flip game. You flip that coin, literally anybody could have won.
Sure, yeah.
I also think you go back and if you please, you might have to actually go back to that game and see what I'm fucking talking about here. But Seoul made some, to me, very clear, obvious errors as well. They did some really weird stuff. They played a lot of different weird comps that they don't play normally. Like,
they were doing
where
a
the
lot
fuck
of
where the
swapping
fuck was
around.
this Prophet Cassidy shit from? Okay,
Yeah.
and I know some guys are like, yeah, but they won with that. I'm like, yeah, but my point is Seoul is like mega gambling on some stuff they don't normally do, and Fitz played like fucking shit as well, by the way, compared to what he normally does.
Yes.
And so like, yeah, it's not just like mega copium for Seoul. They lost. Atlanta beat them, all fair and square. I'm fine with that result. It's just like you look at Seoul, and it's like, even if you want to just bring it down to the literal last map of Lijiang, I think there was a C9, and there was not a C9 from Seoul somewhere in the middle there as well, like on Oasis.
That I
something?
can't.
I'm pretty sure that there's some pretty yes, there was. There was some fucking bad C9 from Oasis on Oasis Gardens for Seoul. It was a really fucking bad C9 that happened as well.
Yeah.
And then they just forgot about Stalker Sojin on Night Market. They just forgot. The guy like spends half the map playing Ash when everyone else was playing Sojin on that map. And also, Stalker was like, he was frying on Sojin earlier.
Sure. Yeah.
And then they just don't play that again. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's just so weird. Like, Seoul just did some fucking weird things. So I don't think it's that far-fetched to say, like, you play that match a few more times.
Oh, for sure,
There's a reasonable number of times that Seoul win that game. I'm not saying like, Atlanta didn't deserve to win, because I think they do deserve to win, but at the same time, I'm like, I think it's like super revisionist if anyone goes back and be like, yeah, but like,
Atlanta always should have
Seoul
beat
bad. Atlanta would always beat them. It's like, no, you need to go revisit some of the shit that happened in that game, including the C9 and then into the fucking Sojin shit. So
would we agree that like Seoul had like a bad event? Could we agree there?
When we get to somebody's ranking for Seoul, I think we can get into a little bit more detail, because I want to save that. But my point is, because Yiska's already brought up the Atlanta discussion. Had they lost to Seoul, I think their placement, the entire discussion around Atlanta would be extremely different, because then what it would look like is they get smoked by London, and then let's say they go 5 maps, but they lose 2-3 instead of winning 3-2. Then it's like they go close to Seoul, but then lose. And then depending on how far Seoul make it, then that kind of like tells a story about how good Atlanta were in terms of them playing Seoul close. I don't know. Yeah.
And I would say, like,
all right.
it's still, like, now I'm feeling bad, because once again, we found some miraculous way in the ether of Overwatch League, where we somehow managed to, like, once again, put Atlanta down.
Yeah.
But realistically, what one also has to say is, like, they did end up winning that game. And then after that, they went on a roll, right? Like, it's...
They performed really well.
Like, I think... Like, if by the definition outlined that you guys used, I think I would have them like 5th right now.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'll talk about Houston really quickly, because you guys will have Houston a little bit later on as well. So I'll just do a little bit on Houston. Yeah, I have Houston 8th, and given that I think Houston are better than Florida. I mean, they smoked Florida in the upper bracket as well.
Yep.
But beyond that, I don't think Houston looked particularly exciting, but I do think they're better than Florida and the other 4 teams below them. So I think that's a nice default place to put Houston as like the best of the rest, right? And we'll talk about Houston a little bit more when you guys get there as well. So speaking of, let's get there. 7. Bring it in.
7. I don't think we're too far off on the Houston vibes. At least I would gander. Yeah.
Yeah. You both have Houston. So why don't we get into it? I'll talk about Seoul in a second, but let's get into Houston a little bit.
Sure. I think kind of circling back to what I said about Houston and Dragons, it's like, yeah, if gun to head, fate of the universe on the line. Yeah, I do think for this first half of the season, I think the Houston Outlaws have been a more consistently good team than Shanghai has. I think that like this Sojourn meta has like fell right into their lap and they looked phenomenal on it. I think, Merit being statistically like, was he the highest performing Sojourn by the end of midseason? I don't remember, but I know that
only statistically.
Yes, sure. Only statistically.
And actually, only statistically leading up to the Midseason Madness. I don't know how the stats look afterwards because I'm sure Shy just fucking blew those stats open.
Could be, right?
So
but
only
like
statistically up until the tournament, not including.
Merit has been quite good for this team. I think in a weird way, in this like seems like no, that's not true because I think the biggest limiting factor is their tank line. That probably doesn't change from kickoff because Doom was like halfway all right for most of it. And then this stage, if they had a different tank, would they have performed better? It's tough to say. I will say in a weird way, I think Pelican this season has like dropped in terms of rating for me. I think there is a lot of like just forcing this Genji and there's a lot of forcing this Echo and it works. And it is stylistic and I think it's fun. Genji. Yes, but when you revisit like kickoff, it felt like teams were trying to trend away from it and they were adopting a lot of the Tracer and he just couldn't adapt. So like they were trying to force a lot of these other picks that like felt a little bit more comfortable for him. And it's not a bad thing. It's just a thing that I think is a little bit of a hindrance for them. But there again, when you like, what is the record? Like 9-3. Like, is it really a hindrance? It's a potential thing, and I know we're not predicting, but like as it stands right now, I think they could be better if Pelican just had a little bit more depth to him. It's not that his Tracer is bad, but like in terms of just how it feels like they're progressing, it feels like some of these matches progress. It seems like he starts on Tracer and then he ends up like ending the map on like an Echo or a Genji, and it doesn't feel like he's super comfortable with it. That said, I think the backline has surprised me. I think Piggy, he exists. He's certainly a player. Yeah, I think this is the most consistent team out of like this like upper mid pack in NA.
Sure. Well,
and Yiska's like, you know what? Houston is 7th on the standings. I'm putting them 7th.
Correct.
Well, where'd you put them otherwise? Like if you had to
no, I think that's one of those that's bang on.
I would agree.
It's and you could argue they should be a little bit higher, but once again, you could also argue that they have been entirely lucky with these metas how they fell, and like really only like briefly was Doom ever like non-playable for a brief moment until like team's understanding of Doom once again expanded. I feel like didn't we have like I think was it late stage 1, early stage 2 where like both Atlanta and Houston had a bit of a performance dip because Doom seemed figured out, and then like the new meta rolled around and now it was feasible again, right? Am I remembering this correctly?
Yeah, I would agree. I think like towards the end of kickoff, I think like the perception.
I can explain that. The reason why Doom started trending down into kickoff is because there was a lot more Tracer gameplay for starters, and I think that caused a lot of issues for Doom. Also, it was just like a really heavy Zarya Reaper kind of meta, and I feel like Doom is kind of punished in that as well.
Right.
This was pre-Zenyatta buff, so no one's playing Zen, and Winston was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And so generally speaking, if you were playing dive, you would rather play the Winston as just a more consistent hero. And then because I think with mid-season, here's the funny thing with Zen, people played less Winston, but then funnily enough, despite playing less Winston, by the time we got to the tournament, they all just realized, fuck it, play Winston
Fucking
anyway.
play Winston, yeah.
They just played
Which
it
is very
anyway.
odd.
So what I think really happens is teams that really like the Doom, whether because they're stuck on it, or whether because they truly just think it's really good, like Atlanta and Houston, just kept on playing it and kind of forcing it. But I did feel like at that stage, they were definitely forcing it.
Yeah.
That's my read. I guess I should probably defend the Soul 7th pick now that I have. So I'm the first person to put Soul in there. Here's the funny thing. I just like gave some mega copium for Soul, but I'm still putting them 7th.
I mean,
I'm still putting them fucking low.
They did bow out early.
The thing is, yeah, they did bow out early. To be real, as much as I'm like, oh yeah, but Seoul could have beaten Atlanta and they could have done this and they could have done that. The fact is, they fucked up. They C9. They played wrong heroes. They fucked around with their comps. Fitz was complete shit this tournament, and Seoul were just a mess. So realistically speaking, I've got the copium for Seoul, but realistically, I have to put them 7th in the rankings based on what actually happened. I'm just saying, like, there are multiverses where Seoul could have been better and could have been Atlanta.
Oh, for sure.
What I will say is, I don't think they could have beaten Spark because Spark were on a fucking tear this tournament. I don't think Seoul being Spark. When I saw Seoul beat Dynasty, I was like, okay. Oh, sorry, Spark beat Dynasty. I was like, okay, is Seoul shit or is Spark amazing?
Yeah.
And I think discovering what happened right now, I think Seoul were definitely worse from KC, given where they were in KC.
Sure.
I think the early signs were they lost to the MN3 Philadelphia Fusion in the final regular season game for Midseason Madness for the qualifier. And that was maybe like an early sign, but at the same time, you're like, well, maybe
it was also
Seoul
hard to
like,
tell. Yeah.
Maybe Seoul just like lost because MN3 went nutty.
Yeah.
Which is kind of true. But then you get to this tournament and it really hasn't recovered for Seoul. I think Spark leveled the fuck up. So it's a combination of Seoul being worse and Spark being way better.
Yep.
And then because Seoul is still quote unquote worse, it allowed the leeway for Rain to take over and win. But again, not by a resounding margin. Rain won by extremely close margins.
Yep.
And I'm going to be pissed about anyone being revisionist about that. Again, watch the fucking series. It was really close.
Yeah.
Like exceptionally close.
Yeah. To your point, I do think that like Seoul, like this is a column A, column B thing. Like, yeah, they might have been like trending down, but like I don't know that you can like look at the regular season games from the midseason madness and look at these tournament games and like not see like a complete degradation in terms of like skill. When you look at like fits, you look at like the team cohesion, you talk about the C9, like this is a team that like had a bad tournament. And I think that's like fair to say, but you also have to judge it properly, right?
However, I do have to somehow, because here's the other problem now. I have to defend why I have Seoul below Shanghai when arguably Shanghai did worse. Now, Shanghai didn't make it further in the tournament, which if I wanted to be really forehead about it, just not explain shit, I'll just say, like, oh yeah, Shanghai made it further. But Shanghai, like, I don't know. Maybe I can speak to more. Maybe I can speak to more when I get to Shanghai. But because here's the thing: Seoul played Atlanta way closer than Shanghai played Atlanta. For one,
totally.
Realistically, I probably could just swap Seoul and Shanghai. I could put Seoul. I could put Shanghai in the position and put Seoul above. Yeah, I mean, I think the Dallas and Toronto win is still worth something, even though the quality of teams are far lower than the Spark Atlanta. Like when you really put it to context, Seoul lost to two of the best teams this tournament. They really did.
Yep.
Forget about Spark losing to Philly and dropping out 5-6. Like Spark are a good enough team that they could have been in third. Spark were like this close, like I'm pinching my fingers, this close to beating the Gladiators, and if they did, Spark would have been in the fucking upper bracket final. Even if they lose to Shock, they'd be in the lower bracket final, guaranteed third. They were that close to guaranteeing third. So I think this is a team that has the quality of being in the top three. So given that, Seoul realistically only played two games, and they lost to both of the teams that have top three quality in both Rain and Spark. I'm cheating a little bit because I'm like peering into the multiverse with Spark beat Gladiators, but that's a very conceivable thing. That's a very extremely conceivable thing.
Yeah, when you
And
play a team that
not
close.
not at all a far fetched concept.
No.
So
Are you about
Yeah,
to
I-
pre-justify how you're not putting gladiators at 1?
No, I doubt. And I doubt our first teams look different, right? I think first place is
So-
like pretty clear.
yeah, I think I might have fucked up by putting Shanghai higher, but I'm just gonna live with that.
Whatever. It's what it is.
So here we go, 6.
Where are we going? Where are we going?
So you guys have
Okay,
so you guys kind of both have Shanghai 6. Joe, you have Seoul at 6. So
Yep.
really, outside of you putting Shanghai at 9, this is very much like, that means Yiska has Seoul even higher. Like again, for me, it's like it's a 6-7 thing.
Yeah.
I think Yiska putting them at 6 as well. It's like, I mean, I can let you explain your position as well, but I don't know. I feel like I got more. I feel like I think I was extremely pissed with Seoul in terms of
Mhm.
like the decisions they made and how
Sure.
preventable that was. I think maybe I let that get to me a little bit. But Shanghai as well. I mean, yeah, they definitely fumbled too. Maybe I got a little bit of an extra twinkle off the fact that they beat 2 teams, but contextually, those 2 teams that they beat were not on the same quality level as Atlanta Spark anyway. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're judging this off of like mega recency and like Seoul, like, yeah, if you just take the tournament, like, yeah, Seoul, we're the worst team.
I probably should swap them, but I'll let you
That is
talk
what it
about
is, yeah.
the Shanghai 6. Also, just again, fun fact: Shanghai standing 6,
True.
Yiska, our ranking 6.
As all things good things should be there.
Is this where you would want them in terms of form? Is this one of those other ones where it's just like, yeah, you could probably put them 6, or do you think they should be higher?
Okay, so by virtue of Dallas,
You don't have to give a
having
number,
be
just
lower,
like higher or lower.
I think a little. I think it works.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree. It's within like the range that I would agree with. That's just like, yeah, like if you think that like Shanghai like had a better season, like, yeah, okay, that's fair. Like, I don't think anybody justifiably can like put them within the top 5 anymore. Like, they haven't shown, the championship caliber.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes the Philadelphia Fusion look championship caliber, but we can't put them,
Correct. Like it's sometimes like there's still this Shanghai in there where Lip just beasts, and then it all is right in the world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he did versus like Dallas and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think like, I don't know, some people were like, yeah, but he was versus Gurio. But at the same time, it's like mechanics are mechanics, man. Like when you can do the mechanics he's doing,
Yeah.
you can just turn off the nameplates of who he's playing with on some level.
Yeah.
Not completely, but on some level, you just have to admire the fact that when you're hitting shots, that's you. It's still you moving your fucking mouse, regardless of what the other team's doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, Lip can still be Lip sometimes, but just not as consistently this year.
Sure.
Would agree.
And again, as an update, Yiska now has 11 out of 15 teams identical to the standings.
Right.
All right, what was Joe's pick? You'd Seoul. Let's go back to the thing.
A lot of the same reasons I think you kind of pre-established with like how like underperforming they were. Obviously they did win Kickoff Clash, so it was like, okay, this is like the end of like that line because of how disappointing they were coming towards the end of like the midseason madness, where you come in, you're like, oh, they should beat the Spark, they should be doing well. Like there's only like 3 teams at this tournament. It's like Lads, Shock, and maybe Seoul, and boy howdy was that not the case. I do think that was just a bad day at the office. I do think that they just had a bad tournament. I think if you play it 9 out of 10 times, like it's drastically different. And like, yeah, I give them some credit, but there again, like recency bias does shine through here for me. And like, yeah, I think there's some notable teams missing from my ranking that like, we're getting to like the top 5 now. And like, yeah, these are the teams that have performed the best recently, right? I think in terms of power, that's where I would place them, especially, I think I could probably change a couple, but I'm not mad at them.
I think people just need to understand that Seoul played considerably worse this tournament
Yes,
than how they were before.
have been. Yep.
There's a lot of fucking NA Andy revisionists out there that are pretending Seoul were always this bad to start with. And
Was
it's
it
just like,
all on
no.
one day,
bro,
by the way?
huh?
No, I'm misremembering. Right? It wasn't just all on one day.
Yeah, it just wasn't one day.
Really? No, I think it was 2 days in a row, right?
No,
Yeah,
it was 2 days.
That's what I'm
It
saying.
was
Yeah,
2 days.
I'm agreeing with
Yeah.
you. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, and so I'm saying is like some people out there pretending like, oh, well, Seoul are always bad because they don't have any good competition to play against. It's just
Yeah.
like, no,
Yeah.
you haven't seen Seoul play. You need to fucking watch Seoul play this tournament and then watch them play how they normally would. Forget about their opponents. Just look at what Seoul are doing. Look at their own decisions. Look at their own comps. Look at what they are fucking doing themselves. Look at their own mechanics. Agnostic of who their opponent is. Look at the fact that Fitz is fucking, able to hit people with his mouse. And then and now he plays a tournament, he doesn't know how to use a mouse anymore.
Mm.
He's just like, he's playing with one fucking hand for this tournament. Again, agnostic of who his opponents are, he just simply didn't aim. He just fucking wasn't clicking people anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Agreed.
True.
Top 5.
Number 5. What says the sheet?
Bro, we go all the way
5,
back down.
Spark
Holy shit,
5.
that means Joe got Philly up. I got Philly in 5.
Yeah, that's the one I
Yiska
will
got-
say that I'm like, I don't like this.
Yiska got Dallas in 5. Joe
Okay,
got
where do you
Spark in 5.
actually think Dallas is though, Yiska? Higher or lower?
Lower.
Huh? Lower? Like how much lower? Like a range of numbers.
I don't think I would have them in 12th.
Okay.
It's because you ain't based.
Because to be fair to Yiska, like yes, like I think he took the assignment literally.
Yeah.
But like I don't think we're too far
Also-
off. Like a lot of these
also-
are within some level of standard deviation.
Also, to be fair to Yiska, Dallas are 4th in standings, and Yiska put them in 5.
True. Not the same.
So it is different.
Yeah.
No, but where would you put them?
Yeah, where
Where
would
would
you?
you actually put them?
Probably had 8th, I think is where, or 9th maybe is where I would put them.
8th. Who did I have 8?
Okay, so below, right? So you would still have them above
Okay,
like
yeah.
London
Yeah.
and Mayhem and
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah, I would have them above London. Yeah.
All right.
I
Interesting.
agree.
And this is where Joe and I debate Hangzhou and Philly. So notably, this is how it's going to be. Why don't we reveal 4th? Because I think I know where Joe and I have in 4th, and then we can debate who's higher between Hangzhou and Philly. So let's reveal 4th, and then we can talk about these two teams because I know. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
So Yiska and I have both Spark in 4th. Joe, you got Philly in 4th.
Correct.
So it's literally the difference between between Philly 4th or Spark 4th. We can pretend that Yiska didn't put Philly in 10th.
Yeah, I mean, did we give him the leniency there? Like, where would you put Philly? Actually, do you think Philly is 10th best team in the world? I think it's a little bold, but I mean, I'm not mad at it.
No, I would have said 5 as well, or
Okay,
6
that's
even.
fair. Sure.
Yeah.
Again, reasonable.
That means you have them below Shanghai if you have them 6. That's even based on your ranking too.
Okay, yes. If I thought Shanghai. Yeah. I think, maybe then 5, yeah.
That's fair.
So you both think. Wait a minute. No, that means Yiska and I are aligned. Alright, Joe, you have Philly in 4th.
Yes, I do.
Am I taking this just from the fact that they beat them to get to 4th?
No, not necessarily. I think that, the way that I looked at this, I did give a little bit more credence. I mean, like, this is a team that like has performed very high and also very low. But in the aggregate, I would say that they are like performing higher. I think they ended performing very high. I think they ended Kickoff Clash coming in 2nd, I believe, in APAC. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, they did get fucking 4-0 stomped, and it wasn't very interesting. But all things considered, when you look at their resume as it stands right now, I think you could argue this is one that it does feel 50-50, because I think if like you're more recency biased inclined, I do agree that Spark was the better team, like the most recent. But in terms of like the first half of the season, I think Philly has had the better first half of the season.
Yeah, this is a tilting one for Philly fans, I'm sure. And I actually responded to a thread on Comp OW about this as well, because I think there was
Really? Are they just that mad?
Well, there was a conversation about like, you know, it was like, why is everyone putting Spark above Philly when Philly beat them? And I went in there, I'm like, here's fucking why.
Yeah.
Because from my perspective, Spark, despite losing to Philly in the lower bracket quarterfinals, and by the way, just so that people don't forget, they also did beat Philly as well in the upper bracket.
Sure.
So we're clear. Spark are the stronger team. I truly believe Spark are the stronger team, and this is a power ranking, not a fucking standing. Not to flame Yiska because he's had the same ranking as me, but like it's also it's not a standing show based on the regular season standings. It's also not a standing show based on the tournament standings either. Because if we go by raw tournament standings, then yeah, Spark placed below Philly. But Spark, in my opinion, are a stronger team than Philly, and that's easy to prove because they fucking demolished Seoul, like absolutely embarrassed them. And then maybe that's not fair. The Seoul didn't get fucking squad wiped, so they still competed. 100 did 3-0. Anyway, they had the most insane game versus Gladiators, and again, super fucking close. And this is where like some of the NA bullshit toxicity is really weird and fucking cringe, because Spark were like, again, I'm pinching my fingers, this damn close to beating Gladiators and being in top 3.
Yeah.
That close. And people like, I don't know, people were like being weird about that and pretending like the Spark 2-3 didn't happen or something. I don't know, man. It's just kind of weird, champ.
Some cherry picking out there, sounds like.
It's kind of weird. It's kind of fucking weird, guys. Seriously. And then you look at the Spark Fusion game. First of all, I think the Spark Fusion game that happened in the upper round 1 is like a lot more representative of how strong the teams are. But then also, I think the Fusion came in really hot.
Yeah.
In the lower bracket quarterfinal, they had a huge upswing, humongous upswing. And I'm a little bit tilted by New Queen Street because 2 fucking bullshit things happened there where, you know, Bernard lost his grab to a literal fucking bug. It just went through the ground. And then Shy got slept by the luckiest fucking sleep dart I've ever seen in my life, where Fix is looking at Bernard, trying to sleep the Zarya, and then just randomly Shy pops in front of him. And like, it was just like a completely total RNG thing. Shy had no idea that Fix was there. Fix had no idea that Shy was there.
It's like the equivalent of like hitting a nat 20. Like you have to roll perfectly to like hit that sleep dart, and like odds are you don't, but somehow we live in a universe that you rolled nat 20s back to back.
I would say it's more like a nat 21. Like it shouldn't even fucking exist.
Sure.
The timing was impeccably perfect to the point where, like, you know, it's just you couldn't have fucking gambled that. It's like it's one of those things you can't even gamble. It's the most unbelievably lucky thing that has ever happened in this game, almost. At like I'm talking pure RNG. Nothing skill involved. Please no one copium that and be like, oh, he predicted. No, he had no fucking clue. Look at his POV. He had no idea Shy was there. Shy also had no idea he was there either. Neither player knew the other one was there. 100% guarantee you that. And that basically lost Spark the map. That's one of those. I think I brought up this example. I can't remember where I did it. Might have been on the show. Might have not been. No, I think it was on my stream. It was it's that Hearthstone Championship Paveling book moment. You guys, I don't know if I know you follow Hearthstone a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe you remember that. Maybe you don't.
I think I remember.
This guy called Pavel played the Babbling book, this mage card, and it gives you a random mage spell. Out of all the mage spells, it gives you a complete random one. And this dude Pavel, through pure RNG, got the exact mage spell counter he needed to kill this one monster and come back. Like it was like a 1 in 50 fucking chance or some shit like that. And he got the exact thing. Now, granted, Hearthstone's a mega RNG game.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it felt like to me. like Fusion were destined to lose their map unless they play the fucking babbling book and get the one spell out of 50 they needed, and somehow they got that, and then they won.
Yeah.
It just doesn't sit right with me. I can't, man.
Yeah. And sometimes Overwatch is like that, right?
Yeah.
No,
sometimes
it's not. It's not. That's the problem. It's Overwatch is almost never RNG, which is why it was so tilting to see that, because that was like one of the only pure RNG moments that has ever happened.
Right. Yes. In the macro, you're right. We literally had cats pick heroes, so like.
Glad somebody else remembers that.
That's a little different. That's like
yeah, no, it's different for sure.
It's very different. But first of all, that didn't even take place in the game, so we.
Yeah. I understand the micro, but like, that also determines the strength of teams. But yeah,
I will say,
but that's not any different from how they were doing.
No, it's a completely different level of micro and macro.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will say, to your point about like the grav being just like lost to a bug, I'm kind of surprised that isn't a bigger deal. That like, if we're having like, audience participation in how we view the rules, I don't understand how we are not up in arms about ultimates that should and probably would have shaped the course of a team fight that could result in like the game.
People keep saying, "I was like, oh, wouldn't have made a difference." Is literally what people are saying.
Yeah, I do wonder if like a lot of
subscribe to that personally.
Yeah, I don't know if the same crowds that are pitching a metaphorical bitch about some. I don't think they're the same, but it does surprise me that like the professional audience, let's say,
these bugs do piss me off, because I don't know if you guys noticed in Contenders Korea recently, Top Dragon from Talon Esports, lost his. I think it was just a regular blade, not a nano blade. He lost his Dragon Blade on King's Row C.
Yeah.
Dashing into the fucking pit, even though he was nowhere near it.
Yeah.
Because there's a bug. There's a slide. At first I thought he dashed through the ground. But he slid so fast across that it looked like he went through the ground. So essentially, what happened is he dashed.
Eclipse.
And because it was a very specific angle he dashed at.
Yeah.
The character slid across the ground at Mach 10 speed and just slid towards the right, and then he fell into the pit. Now, granted, that's not a specifically Overwatch 2 bug. Because apparently that's also existing in Overwatch 1. But my point is that's still a fucking bug. That's still a bullshit bug. Where like you can dash somewhere where realistically you should be fine.
You should not
dash into the ground. But the game just decided you're gonna die and you just go into the fucking floor.
Whether or not those like matter is not like a that's subjective, and I think that's a fair like discussion to have. But to discredit the like competitive integrity question that poses, I think bugs like that are grounds to remake the map. Me personally.
I will also say, like, I was a big fan of you calling that out in the moment, AVRL. I saw the clip. Like, it was Top Dragon, right?
It was.
Like,
I called it out for the rest of the map.
Yeah.
I was pissed.
Yeah. I mean, rightfully so. Yeah. I think that when it's too blatant, you can't expect, or actually you should expect your caster to just call it out.
Like
and then like have the developer fix that shit. It's not on the caster to lie.
If I'm a staff member of Talon Esports, I'm fucking throwing.
I'd be furious. Yeah,
I'm fucking sending emails and fucking barking down people's. I don't give a fuck. Like I'm like, remake that fucking map. You're bugging this game. Just fucking cost us a map. Fuck that. Remake that shit. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I'd be storming into the Blizzard office and fucking making demands instantly. Fuck that.
Yeah.
Lose a map because of a bug. Fuck that.
And that's and again, it's not the same what Florida Mayhem did with like the wall boost and like maybe to Yiska's like soapbox around like the striker boost and whatnot. But I think there is a very bizarre application of like when the audience, and I'm going to be very clear and say the audience is participating in these referee decisions, and like when we get to abide by those audience votes. I think that's very strange, and I don't think that
the difference
is appreciated.
difference between the Mayhem one is like Mayhem quote unquote abused the bug. I think that technically they did abuse the bug
Yes.
to gain an advantage, whereas these bugs between Bernard losing his grab and Top Dragon losing his blade is more like an in-game bug that like removed your thing from the game that you should have had.
And I think that
Mayhem
lack
did
of
something they
agency is
shouldn't have been
almost
able to.
yes, they shouldn't have been
that.
able to.
Yeah.
And there's also some discrepancies there that I think Yiska accurately reported on, or at least it sounds like, you know, that's up to snuff.
Yeah.
I almost consider these like bugs like almost worse because you're expecting the game to like have consistent mechanics and they just don't sometimes. And that can, and I believe could cost you games, much like it did the Spark and much like it sounds like it did with Talent. So
anyway, that's why I think Spark are better.
That's
why I think Spark are better, because I feel like they should have beaten Fusion. They already did. They had an insanely close game versus Gladiators. They were that close to being third. Fusion, also then I'm a little pissed that Fusion then went and lost the Atlanta Reign. And here's the fucking thing is, like, I feel like there's so many people in the Overwatch community in the audience that for some reason, like, they have the memory of goldfishes and they will like watch one game and then just like completely forget the context of other things that happened literally in the same day. Because Fusion played so much fucking worse versus Reign than Spark. Like, unbelievably worse. Pretty sure I explained this on a previous podcast. But you have to compare those games. And you can't just be like, people acting like, oh yeah, well, you know, Reign were always going to be Fusion because Fusion suck. It's like, brother, Fusion played immensely worse versus Reign than Spark. Like, it wasn't even the same team. So, I don't know. It's like, yeah, that soured my opinion of Fusion a lot. And again, I will say what I said in last time, that if you disagree, there's one irrefutable thing that happened in that game, is that Fusion fucked up their substitutions and failed to put Fury in for the map that he was supposed to play. Now, I'm not going to go into heavy detail on what exactly happened. You're free to speculate, and this is the problem. I can only get into so much detail about what actually happened, because, you know, I have to keep a balance of like how pissed I am about the situation, and then to like where I want to attribute the blame, and I don't want people to go witch hunting. Of course, like, people might just do that anyway because of what I said, but I'm going to just keep enough plausible deniability to protect certain people from being witch hunted. But make no mistake that the whole Fury situation, that was a major fuck up. That was not an intentional. That was not like, oh, we don't want to play Fury here. No, they fucking do. Because Balestria sitting on King's Row is like, I don't know how to play Sigma. Guess who does want to play Sigma? Fury. And for those wondering, oh, maybe he was like extra sick. Nope, that wasn't it either. Sorry to break it to you. He wasn't extra sick for that game. No.
Fair enough.
Anyway. Next.
To 3.
This leads into, I'm just going to continue from where left off, because two of us have Atlanta at 3. Joe and I have Atlanta at 3. Yiska's Soul at 3. Yiska's gone from not copying the standings to copying the standings again.
Where would you actually have Soul? Give me a range.
I mean, this time around, you would have them. Yo, now I gotta fight my emotions and not say like 8th. Because
that's brutal. I didn't even put them 8th.
Not that crazy.
And I was slamming them.
But like, these motherfuckers you were supposed to be the chosen ones, and then
they did not perform. That's very true.
Yeah,
they did not perform. I don't think 8th is like crazy, but that's aggressive for sure.
I think that's, consider that Seoul did better against the Reign than Houston did. I don't think you can put Houston above Seoul. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Who did they play in the first match?
Seoul. Spark. They lost to 2 of the best teams. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I think then you would have to. I think 6 makes sense then.
Okay. So yeah, Atlanta. Okay. Atlanta. Look, this is the thing. You can't say I don't give Atlanta their flowers. You can't say I don't give it to them. You know, I'm saying some shit about some of the games versus these APAC teams, but I still gave Atlanta Reign their flowers because they still won.
Mhm.
Did Philadelphia play like complete ass versus Reign compared to their other match versus Fusion and versus Spark and even versus Mayhem? 100%.
Mhm.
Fusion played far worse versus Reign. That Fusion that shut up versus Reign was just like 50% weaker than the other one, than the other versions of Fusion that we saw
Mhm.
in the same day even. But still gave Reign their flowers. I'm still saying that they're third.
Mm.
Even though I think they played a very easy looking Fusion compared to what Fusion
For
did.
sure.
And this is I'm about to say something really unfair, but I think Fusion denied us of the Spark Reign game. That would have
Sure.
been fucking insane. I'm not gonna say who would have won that. Maybe Reign would have won that too. Who fucking knows? But I guess we'll never know. We won't ever know. And yeah, Atlanta beat Dragons, but I guess Dragons were just they beat the mid tier NA teams and then lost to the top NA teams. That's just kind of all it is, right? And then Atlanta beat Houston. Cool. I think that's a pretty standard, acknowledgeable thing.
Mhm.
Atlanta lost to Gladiators. Again, pretty standard thing.
Fair.
And then
Yeah.
they lost to a very, very close game versus Seoul.
Yep.
So contextually speaking, I don't look at the situation as like, oh man, people have some like weird goldfish memory here where they just look at the score lines or in fact, they don't even look at the score lines. They just look at the results, whether it's a W or an L, and then formulate this opinion that like, oh man, Atlanta Reign just destroyed these APAC teams. And it's just like, brother, they barely beat Seoul by like a fine margin. They beat a Philadelphia. I'm not going to harp on that again. I've already explained it. And then Dragons, I don't know. Dragons is just, I guess, that one was pretty. I got nothing for that. You know what? You can have that. Atlanta fucked up the Dragons. You can have that. I'll give that to you.
I mean, I don't understand like the like this APAC killer mentality when you look at the kickoff clash and they, you know, the Atlanta Reign handedly, maybe not handedly, but convincingly beat the San Francisco Shock. They go on to like, yes, get, you know, throttled by the Glads and then, you know, take Dallas like relatively close, but end up losing. Like, this is a team that has like very inconsistent. Well, I guess that's not necessarily fair, like textbook definition, but hopefully this makes sense, like to, you know, those who want to interpret this. Like, Atlanta is a big swing team, but for both of these tournaments back to back, like they do show up. You can't take that away from them.
Yeah.
And I think that's like
In fact,
worth marks. Yeah.
like I don't know. I think it's like it's unfair to Atlanta to say some of that shit because
Yeah.
it's like what you were insinuating is, you think Atlanta is bad, and if Atlanta beat all these APAC teams, then they must be garbage.
Yeah.
When the reality is, Atlanta is a top 3 team. They're actually fucking insane, especially in playoff scenarios, especially in the lower bracket. They proved that last year in the lower bracket as well by beating everyone's favorite teams. You all remember. And so, like, we got to stop treating Atlanta like a weak team. I don't. I fucking put them in third. I gave them their flowers.
Yep.
Deservedly. And so, like, given that they are a strong team, I don't like, you know, I'm not. I think it's weird to begrudge the teams they beat as if like they shouldn't have beaten those. Well, I am playing to both sides of that argument a little bit, but yeah.
With the given context, I think that's a little bit more.
I think it's
Yeah, I think like I feel like Atlanta. There's only you could only go 3 or 4, right? Unless you have some mega pick where you're like, oh well, if you know, wait, they didn't play Shock, right?
No,
like had Shock met Reign, then they would have lost. Therefore, Shock can't be top 2 or something like this. You know?
Yeah, that's crazy.
You would have to go crazy like this, but
I think 5th, 4th, and 3rd all are kind of very samey, where it's like, yeah, their regular season performance isn't necessarily super great, and then they have like a very like standout event. And that's where it's like different for me for Spark, where it's like they've had a very recent and very explosive. Like again, I can't understate like how impressive they were at Midseason Madness.
I say though, the one caveat, this is the one sore thumb that does stick out, is that London Reign game where I'm going to be real, despite Reign winning one map, that was not close.
No.
That was honestly a bit of an embarrassing game for Reign.
A little bit.
You have to admit that, even if you're a hardcore Reign fan, you got to admit when Bone back on a Zenyatta on an off rolls, outplaying OG and outplaying actual support players and just like fucking dominating you. This motherfucker, by the way, you see that moment at Eichenwalde where Hawk dives in. I think he had a nano as well. I can't remember. He dives in, gets slept, and then he instantly gets 5-balled. You can't say shit like London fucked you up. London fucked the rain up in that game, and not just that.
No. I think across the series as a whole, like London, like, and that's another thing to London, but like both of these teams have these like performance swings. And I think that's just normal with teams. You look at Seoul, you look at Philly, I think in some of these later games, or maybe even games earlier in the season, like it is a swing in performance. Like what's special is the teams that can show up on the day and consistently give you great matches. It's the Shocks, it's the Gladiators, it's the Shanghais of last season. You know, you can look out through history, and it's the consistency that's very special. Teams like London, teams like Atlanta, you can find patterns, but it's not necessarily the most consistent. And yeah, London could be, you know, on a given day, you take a snapshot and they could be like really, really high up there. Same with Philly, same with Atlanta.
I think London or bogey team for Atlanta is a lot of what this is.
That too,
as well.
yeah. For sure.
That's right. Atlanta get hard baited into playing Ryan Mirrors versus London. Like it's great. It's actually crazy. It's both Gator and Hawk. Like both these guys are like Gator's like, I have 0 scrim time. Let me just jump in and Ryan Mirror versus. But not only did he not have scrim time,
the
entire Atlanta squad didn't scrim Ryan Mirrors either. So it's not just Gators; they're fucking everybody.
Like repackage that in traditional sports for a second. Like it's
and then they play Hawk on Ryan, who also doesn't play Ryan. It's like okay, no, sorry, not also doesn't play Ryan. Gator plays Ryan, but like Hawk, who like just doesn't. He doesn't have experience in this mirror either. Like Hardy's going to go to town with Hawk. Hawk's good, but like in a Ryan mirror versus Hardy, it's like
kind of asking for it.
You're not going to win. You're not going to win.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think we know where we're headed next.
Do 2 and 1 together. Just do them both.
Yeah, just do them both. Yeah, they're the same. Bing bang! Here they come. It's the Shock at 2. It's the Glads at
1. Want to make it known that Yiska copied the standings.
Correctly so. To be fair, he is correct.
This time it is correct. Is there anything else to add except for like, look, Glads definitely deserved this, and they are the best team. They won. Given context that Shock also did actually beat Glads in the upper bracket final, but like Glads being 3-0 up on match point instantly.
Yeah.
Given that Shock also just like, almost made a comeback, but like
did
I don't know, man. Like Glads
are different this season. They are something else. Like you can't take that away from them. Like if you're talking about giving a team of like their flowers, like it is high time that we put some respect on the Gladiators' name when you win, you know, your domestic tournament. You come into midseason.
Glads haven't beaten any good teams. They gotta prove. Glads have to prove that they can actually beat some good teams.
Right.
So you know, until they do, no flowers. No, but on a serious note,
no, I know.
They actually had. I think they had the harder tournament run than Shock as well.
Sure, yeah.
Look at the bracket. Houston instead of London, Spark instead of Shanghai. I mean, just even the first 2 games, those are harder games.
Oh.
And then they had to play Rain in the lower bracket to prove that they could get to the. So yeah, like Glad's journey through the tournament was, I would say, significantly harder than, well, maybe I don't want to be that unfair to Shock, but definitely harder than Shock's journey through the tournament. So that's why, like, if they can win the tournament through their specific bracket run, they're the best team.
Hats off to them.
No doubt.
Yeah. And back to back. And then, you know, I think Reinforces brought it, you know, I rightfully brought up this point, I think in the past, you know, this is their 3rd non-playoff tournament win in a row? Granted, again, like there's some, you know, hand waving to do
in a row.
Yeah.
I don't like it when people say like, I don't know, I'm a stickler for accuracy. Well, I'm a stickler for accuracy, but also contextual accuracy in the case where like when people say like, oh yeah, they're 3-peated. I'm like,
Did
Well, we
they
can't just
though?
ignore playoffs. I mean, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
If you're trying to be like really technical, it's like, oh, I'm only talking about stages. I'm like, I guess, but like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're acting like Glads didn't just also lose in the playoffs, which
Mhm.
happened between the two stages. Like, come
Yeah.
on, we
It's true.
can't be doing
true.
that. This is why
I-
specifically in the cast, when the cast of the grand finals was like, Glads go back to back. I didn't say they're three-peated.
Yes.
I just said they go back to back.
I think that is the more strong statement as it stands now, where it's just like, yeah, no, like you have 2 back-to-back performances on a new game, like that are recent, that don't have like another effective tournament in between them. Like performing consistently in this game is incredibly hard. You do not see it across like the 6-year, maybe 7-year history. I'm not doing math, but like within that time range, right? You don't see a whole lot of like consistent performances. You do not see a ton of repeat tournament wins. Even going back like to the Apex era, you have one team that is repeated. You have one team in the Overwatch League era that has repeated like top level performances, right? Like this is hard to do. And like, yes, if you gunned ahead, like I don't even know if it's like that hard, like hot to say that the Glads are the best team in the world right now. Like, is that crazy to say? I think that's the most like ice cold take you could have. And yet I still see people just like doubting Glads.
Yeah.
And I
I
don't
don't think
get
people
it.
doubt them anymore. I don't think anyone doubts them anymore. I think you'd be
Hopefully
crazy
not.
to.
Hopefully not.
I think some people still kind of doubted them before because it's like, well, the whole Shock Glads
Yeah.
current NA rivalry thing. They don't really play. They didn't play each other at all.
They don't play
in
often,
didn't they?
No.
I don't think they played each other at all. It's not even often. It's just like they straight up. If I look at their played matches,
Played Shock once, right?
yeah, in the Kickoff Clash qualifiers, they played Shock once, 2-3. They lost 2-3. That was a reverse sweep.
Mm-hmm.
That was the reverse sweep. Let's
Yeah.
show the so Eric's ready. Let's show the average graphic. So let's aggregate all our picks together. I'm really curious how. Oh my god, Yiska's
like
going to
the most
skew all of
aggregate.
us. Yiska's about to skew the whole thing.
Oh well.
It's
What do we
not
have here?
super far off. It's, these color bars are sort of lining up until they don't.
This is.
I guess ours would be on, like the aggregate would be on the right. Correct?
Yeah.
The aggregate is way on the right, correct? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Shock, spark above rain. That's a little. It is what it is. Soul that high is a little tough.
You know what that is? That's the multiverse version of Hangzhou, where they beat the Philadelphia Fusion, then beat the Rain as well.
I'm
That's
not
that
mad at it.
multiverse.
Yeah.
That's the multiverse version of Spark.
I think you could probably argue.
I think
Or,
Florida's
okay.
too low. I think Florida's too low personally for me, but that's because I put them high.
Yeah. I think in general, where we all agree, it seems like it's like the top 2, the bottom like 8 roughly, and then everything else like I'm not mad at. Like if you think like Philly's like had like a better season than they haven't, or they overperformed and like you don't rate it as high, like I can see a lot of these arguments, right? I don't think
Let's read it out for audio listeners. So here's the TCP aggregated average between all three of us from 1st to 20, from 1 to 20. Glads, Shock, Spark, Rain, Soul, that's top 5. Fusion, Dragons, Outlaws, Fuel, Spitfire, that's the rest of the top 10. Mayhem, Defiant, Hunters, Justice, Boston, that is 11 to 15. And then from 16 to 20, Valiant, New York, Charge, Paris, Titans. There you go.
There we go. Good bookend to the midseason madness, and we will see. I think we're definitely going to have to do some speculating, because I also am chomping at the bit to see, just to hear some takes on who we think might be good in this.
Well, here you go.
Match, so we can do that next week.
We'll talk about it more in detail next week, but just to give a hint, we're about to head into a double main support meta, so all those double flexible teams are going to be main support players.
It's going to be interesting.
I can think of one particular team that actually has 3 flexible players that are especially going to be in trouble.
Yiska, did you want to sneak some in?
Should I juice what's currently played?
Sure, drop a juice, drop a line.
I think
it's Junker Queen's currently being played.
Okay, yeah, it's Junker Queen. It's Genji or Echo.
Okay.
It's Sojourn or Ashe. And then it's
Okay.
Lucio Brig.
Lucio Break, yeah.
So fundamentally identical to Contenders then. So anybody
Yes,
that
very
watched Contenders in the last 2 weeks,
Yeah.
exactly that.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, oh, maybe the Jungle Queen nerf will lower her player. No, didn't do
Nope.
shit. Did not do shit.
Unfortunately not. So get your thinking caps on. We'll be probably doing some wild and heretical speculation next week.
Yiska's got a write up about all this apparently.
Probably, yeah.
So,
The Scrimbucks stock exchange, I'm sure it's churning. I'm sure there's some juice flowing out of there sometime soon.
again, just remember now that Halo's out of the leak game, at Yiska out on Twitter if you want to get the latest on the leaks.
You know,
Yiska is now the leak lord.
I'm like, it's not a leak, but I'm going to drop, I think, the most let's phrase this differently. People love tier lists.
Okay.
People love to find out behind the scenes stuff, especially about money.
Mhm.
And I asked all kinds of industry sources with budget inside of Overwatch League teams where they would rank the respective franchises. So I have a tier list of budgets, but I also have particular ranges of spending, meaning some teams were gracious enough to open their books for me. I won't disclose which teams told me, but you will have a rough idea how much each tier is right about spending, and that is for player salaries and buyouts.
Gotcha.
Right? So,
Okay. So not facilities.
No. And as you will notably see, there are some outliers in terms of like who spends what and like where they are in the standings. Actually, to a ridiculous degree.
That's a hot one.
The last thing, and we're about to sign up, but the last thing I'll say is that Smash, one of the assistant coaches next to Unta, alongside of Unta rather, in the LA Gladius, did a Q&A stream where one of his, I won't even tell you, I can't even remember the question, but one of the responses was translated. It says, I don't know that much. However, our team has a lot of money. Nothing is impossible when it comes down to money. This is a fact. This comes from Smash, the assistant coach of the LA Gladius.
God damn.
Smash is dropping stacks.
The team is owned by Scrooge McDuck. All right.
Apparently.
Thanks, guys. This is episode 254. We'll see you next week for all the catch up on the news and the previews for the Summer Showdown.
Bye.
See ya.